A night in with MauLer and the drinker, getting trashed with the web's free thinkers. A cheap night cause I'm feeling kinda thrifty, got a 10-pack of beers and a bottle of whiskey. Hop off the cork, have a glass of wine, that's they'll say I'll be fine. Trouble walking in a straight line, but pour me a Pinot Noir. It's open bar with our hosts, MauLer and the critical drinker.
Alrighty, I believe that's our cue to begin. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, how are you? How are you,
It's
MauLer,
been
more importantly?
2 years since I last. Can you believe it?
2 entire years that we've
Chat
missed.
gonna go nuts. This reunion.
I know, I can't believe it. We're bringing the band back together after all this time. But yeah, welcome back, everyone. And yeah, it's nice to be back doing open bar again. Obviously, I wasn't here last week because I was away on a little holiday, and it was really nice. I got a little bit of sun and stuff, and shaved my beard off, which is why it's not fully grown back right now. So I feel like me and Dankula somehow did that at the same time, but he did his because he was a bit retarded and he didn't understand his electric clippers. But that's okay.
It happens.
Must be a thing among Scottish people at the moment, but yeah, I'm working on it. Hopefully it'll be back to normal by next week or next year, as the case may be. But anyway, we're here right now. And speaking of years, would you like to know a few pointless little facts about the year 2007, since it's Open Bar 107?
Yeah, I think so. Let's do it.
Okay. It was the year in which the iPhone was launched. So, you know, there's a little thing that kind of had a wee bit of an impact, I suppose.
I
You might
remember.
have heard of it. Yeah. Facebook and Twitter both went global in that year. Kindle and Android were both released, the operating systems, or the operating system, should I say. Airbnb was founded in 2007, apparently, which is weird because I never heard about it for
Wow.
years. Google also purchased YouTube, so yeah, not so much. Okay. But in terms of movies, well, the biggest movie of the year was actually Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. That had a grand
that
total
was
of
huge.
960 million globally, so just shy of $1 billion.
That was a
Pretty
bit of a
massive first
cultural thing. That was. Everyone was very excited to go see that.
It
Pirates
was
big.
It was, yeah, and it's just, yeah, it felt like a real event. It was nice. I liked it, and as much as it was everything, including the kitchen sink kind of movie, I've got a lot of fondness for World's End. I think it was.
Well, it
okay.
opens. I think the prologue is a bunch of children getting hanged, right? Or a bunch of people shooting children.
Which I'm
It's
fully
very,
in favor of. Yeah,
Of course, as family films go, yes, please.
No, it was yeah, it was definitely an interesting start, but yeah, good movie. But yeah, in terms of the others, second place was Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Yeah, I've got nothing to say about that really. Spider-Man 3 was third place.
Hey.
Yeah, flawed movie, but fucking hell, it's like,
Well, you know what? Flawed back then is different than flawed today.
Yeah, very much so. Shrek the Third was in fourth place. A lot of sequels there. And Transformers was fifth.
Oh, classic.
That was it. That's the Transformers franchise, like in terms of live action anyway, that started back in 2007.
That first one, you know, a lot of people say it was so bad. Some stuff in there was pretty neat. I remember the trailer getting pretty impactful for audiences, just being, I think it was the technology at the time, right? CG, it was like, whoa, look at that.
It had, it had the gear porn. It had a lot of technology. I think Shia LaBeouf was tolerable in it, so it had a lot going for it. And I think, Megan Fox was acceptable.
And of course, Linkin Park. Oh,
well, there you go.
People see Transformers as like a time capsule. That film, if you watch it, it's like, whoa, this evokes the culture of the time, which feels like one of the last decades that had culture. You know.
I mean, I was thinking about this today, actually. I genuinely am of the opinion, once you get to the late 2000s, like, that's essentially it. We kind of hit pause on cultural development, and things haven't changed a whole lot. Like, even from a technology point of view, by that point, we had social media. Everyone had, the internet on their phones, smartphones and everything. And it just feels like, things haven't really progressed a huge amount since then.
Either they haven't, or they progressed in such a way that was so cringe, we all want to forget it every single time something develops. Like TikTok. You're just like, I don't want that to be remembered. We don't want to think of a time where that's a thing.
Sadly, it will be. And I think people will look back on this time and think, what happened to humanity? They lost their minds. But anyway, Yeah, in terms of other movies, we had Hot Fuzz that year.
Oh,
So yeah,
brilliant.
It was a good year. Also, There Will Be Blood. Good movie. 30 Days of Night. Excellent vampire movie. I like that one. 300. Began the reign of Zack Snyder, really.
Oh, no.
No Country for Old Men. Also gave us Superbad and Aliens versus Predator Requiem. Officially the most wanky title in the history of movies for such a dumb film.
Did you go see it or did you not care?
I didn't care in the slightest. I watched Aliens versus Predator and I was excited to watch that, and then I actually did watch it and then didn't care afterwards. So,
I like AVP more than the sequel. I think everyone does. But Requiem, shocking how I couldn't fucking see anything. That was the thing that struck me so hard. Because I even there's some things to compliment about that film. Maybe we'll talk about it someday. Because I like the Predator in it. I think at least parts of it. But so dark. Can't see all the effort they put into the prosthetical stuff.
Certain elements, like certain settings, just don't lend themselves to that particular genre. And it's like, do you really want to see an Aliens movie set in like small town suburban America? No, I really fucking don't. Because that's a really boring setting for a movie like this.
I think it could have worked. Darn it. Had they? I mean, remember the fucking cast in that as a bunch of like teenagers who are losers and idiots and stuff.
Yeah,
speaking of they haven't learned from.
We're going to talk a little bit about Romulus later, but we'll save that for later in the stream. But anyway, overall, I have to say this. Apart from Pirates of the Caribbean, 2007 was a slightly uninspiring year in movies. Like with so many of the other like roundups of films for that particular year, like I've thought like, oh god damn, there's some absolute bangers there. With this,
No Country for Old Men is a fucking banger.
It is, but that's just one film, and it's not enough to like make me think that whole year was brilliant for cinema.
Of the ones you listed, a lot of them are like, oh man, remember that came out at the time, and everyone was like, well, that was that. Because A World's End was kind of a bit disappointing for a lot of people. They see the third one as the bad one of the trilogy. Yeah,
and then the fourth one happened.
It sounds silly, but Shrek the Third, I remember people being like, "Oh, that was not very good." Spider-Man 3 is famous for being not as good as Spider-Man 1 and 2.
Yeah,
so, I get you.
It's all relative. It's a downward slide into horrible like obsolescence in terms of cinema, but we can enjoy.
Though it might be sinful for us to refer to the year as anything other than masterful if Hot Fuzz was in it.
That is true, yeah. That did give us Hot Fuzz, so I will be grateful for that. It was really low down the list in terms of like, just box office revenue. Like it didn't make much money, but
no,
I'm sure it wasn't done on a huge budget, so that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's enough about the year that was. It's time to talk about the year that is 2024. And for that, we're going to need our esteemed panel of guests. So I suggest we bring them all in. What do you reckon?
Very well.
Okay, right. Well, I'm going to bring them all in all at the same time. So welcome everyone to Snarky Jay, Little Platoon, and DarkHour. Hello, panel. How are you all doing?
Hello.
This is where we do that pretend thing where it's like we haven't actually talked backstage before we started this stream. So.
Well, Platoon really didn't, so it's for him. It is.
He came in late. Yeah. If you're asking why we were 5 minutes late starting, it was literally because of Platoon. But
it is. But you can blame BT for my problems because they came and drilled holes in my wall, and I had to unplug my entire house, and then I had to plug it all back in before the stream. So the fact I'm here at all is testament to how fantastically technologically skillful I am.
That is,
I'm jealous of you. You have fiber now, don't you?
I do. Like my internet speed is now above 25 megabytes down. It's fantastic.
That's still where I'm at, pretty much. So,
how long does it take you to upload one of your reviews?
It's a fucking nightmare. If I'm needing to redraft, take for example the Doctor Strange video. Every time I notice a mistake or a copyright issue, it's like, well, won't find out anymore now until tomorrow, or I retry.
That's rough. That's rough. Well, anyway. You guys are all here, and thank you for joining us here for Open Bar. So, I guess the first thing I wanted to ask you guys about Borderlands. It is out. It's been out for almost a week now, and what an experience it was. I mean, just in terms of box office revenue, this film has raked in a grand total of $14.9 million against a budget of $120 million. That is on track to be one of the biggest box office disasters in cinema history.
Exactly what it
guess-
deserves.
Well, yeah.
Couldn't have happened to a
Yeah.
better movie.
I mean,
Deserving, very deserving.
I think we kind of all knew it was going to be bad. Like, the trailer was horrendous. Nobody was enthusiastic about it. Like, the geriatric cast wasn't really selling anyone on it. And the fact that it was released into the August dumping ground is just further proof that, like, the studio themselves had no belief in it. But wow, even I didn't expect it to be as bad as it was. Like, it was genuinely... I was saying this to Platoon. It's only like 100 minutes long. It honestly felt like about 5 hours. It was a slog to get through.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually surprised that the budget is that low, considering the fact how long it was in development for. It was it has development as far back as the earliest was as far back as like 2015, and they did a bunch of reshoots. I'm shocked that it's not closer to 200.
The original plan was for it to be R-rated, which I think would have been a much better idea. I think you could have had a lot of fun with it, considering the games are quite, like, you know, violent and gory and stuff. Like, yeah, go into that 100%. But instead, you got this. Ugh. And yeah, man, the casting. I mean, I suppose there's so many different aspects of this film to talk about, but the casting is horrendous. Like, casting Cate Blanchett as Lilith, that should have been played by an actress in her mid-20s, like someone who's really young, energetic, like, you know, no fucks given. And instead you've got this like woman in her mid-50s who just looks tired and bored.
It was actually my first note when I was watching it, is Cate Blanchett is too old to deliver the line. That sounds like some wild BS, doesn't it? And it's like, that's not a Cate Blanchett line. You shouldn't be saying that. Why are you saying that?
Were they putting stuff on her face to make her less wrinkly?
I think it was.
I think she's had work done.
Well, it also looked to me like they had one of those blur filters on. Like, I don't know if any of y'all have seen Morning Show. I can't remember where they streamed that, but it's Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon, and they both look like two giant blurs because they keep applying these like defocusing thing, and I think that's what they did to Cate Blanchett in this movie.
I think you can actually do that here on StreamYard, if I recall correctly.
Shit, let me go into the settings. Hold on.
I'm on it.
I need it right now.
Oh yeah, here you can. Touch up my appearance. Wait, let's see how bad I look. Hold on. Yeah,
if you
see how
just
it's
turn
like
into Cate Blanchett when you hit that button, it's going to be.
But see how it's you can see it's like removing everything from my face.
Then that's kind of how she looked in the movie.
Well, it's not just that. It's like you can, her face kind of looks stretched. Like her mouth is kind of like that. Like she's had a facelift or something. And it's, you know, I get it. She's older and stuff, but it just becomes really obvious when she's the main character like this. And I could even live with the whole idea of like picking an older actress for this part if it was an actress who had some kind of pedigree in the action genre, like, I don't know, Charlize Theron or Mila Jovovich or something, who at least has done this stuff, and it's like, oh, okay, I can kind of get behind her doing like an action movie like this in middle age and see how she copes with it. But Cate Blanchett is like not known for this kind of thing at all. It's just such a random choice of actress. I don't know why she did it. And when she was asked about it, she basically said, yeah, it was COVID and I was going a bit nuts at home and I just needed something to do. So I signed up for this movie.
Okay. Imagine you were the director and they said that. You're like, thanks.
I looked up IMDb as well, like, because, you know, Eli Roth directed it, and he said he was inspired by watching his French bulldog taking a shit to pitch this movie. And I kid you not.
Right.
Because apparently, like, you know, it looks, when your dog takes a dump, it looks at you like, you know, it needs reassurance that it's okay to do it or whatever. And he's like, okay, that was my inspiration for Claptrap as a character. And that's how I pitched the film. Okay. Sure, yeah.
Bold strategy. Let's see how it fails at the box office.
Yeah. And then
what I wouldn't have given to be a fly on the wall of that meeting. So what was your inspiration for this? Well, I saw my dog take a shit. Let's just start with that and we'll move forward.
It's like you're hired. And yeah, like you've got elements like Jack Black voicing Claptrap, which is legit one of the most gratingly annoying characters I've seen in recent years. It's like they gave him no direction and no lines even. It's like he was just trying to make it up on the fly.
He is kind of like Claptrap in the games, though. Like, if you've ever played Borderlands 2 and you've just sat in place for any long period of time, you want to kill him. But the games have the advantage because you can run away and you don't have to be around him. Whereas the film, you are stuck with the most. He's supposed to be annoying in the games in short doses, but in the film, you are stuck with him. And it's like you have to make a change to that character. You cannot be annoying people 100% of the way through your movie. That is not how you get people to enjoy anything. So either you change his character or you don't give him such a pivotal role, but you don't give him full on Claptrap, full on all the time. It's, oh God, one of the most grating experiences I've had in the cinema. Well, I wasn't in the cinema. One of the greatest experiences I've had watching a film for a long time.
It was a nice trip to India for you.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm inspired to sign up for betting websites for some reason. I don't know.
Because on that note, right, the dialogue thing was awful. Agreed, but the dialogue for everybody was awful. I was losing it listening to how they were doing everything and like the most predictable story progression stuff. But did I hear it correctly? Did she actually, when they teleport, first of all, they teleport and she says, "We teleported." I got the this is the Clone Wars vibes from that line, especially being the same actress, by the way. But she said after that, she's like, "I just moved us with my freaking mind." And I was like, wait a minute. Like, they just take that from Forspoken? Like, Jesus Christ. There's so many like just amateur mistakes when they Claptrap and Kate Blanchett are walking into where she used to live, right? He says, "Was this your home?" And then she says, "Yes, I used to live here."
That's generally the definition of a home, I suppose.
One of my favorite things, and that's not even the first time that they teleport, because right in the beginning, they specifically state that the planet that she's on with the bar, with Promethea, is 50 light years away. And then next scene, she's just on Pandora.
Yeah.
You can't... 50 light years is a measure of distance. Like, you can't...
I mean, I don't know what the technology is, whether they have warp drives or something, but like, I get the really strong impression that this movie has been butchered in editing. Like, there was a ton of extra stuff there, and like they've just cut it all out, and that's why they have these weird voiceovers from Lilith, just saying like, "Oh, so I arrived on the planet and killed a bunch of people, and then that led me to this thing, and that's how I got to the next stage of my quest." It's like, okay, that was probably a 20-minute segment that you've just cut from the movie because you needed to save time. And I guess it was like, just cut this film down to the bare bones to get as many showings in as possible and try and get that opening weekend as high as you can, because nobody will see it after that.
Which is mad, because like it made it way less relatable for anyone who was ever trying to come to this movie who didn't know a huge amount about the games. And like, I don't know a huge amount about the games, but I have played them at some point in the very distant past. But that you can't rely on just saying, well, you know, it's a character, she looks like Lilith, she's called Lilith, so, you know, you remember her. Likewise, Claptrap. Like, you will get the jokes because the jokes are things you remember from the games that you played back in the mid-2000s. And say, that's not going to be true for the vast majority of your potential audience. You do actually have to lead people into your story. Even Super Mario Brothers led people in with a sort of truncated origin story, and that's one of the most recognizable franchises of all time. Yeah. Borderlands takes this weird approach where the first opening 10 minutes is backfilled exposition of what, by the way, I think would have been a way better film if you wanted to kick off a Borderlands movie franchise, which is Kate Blanchett playing Lilith's mother looking for the vault, which could have ended on a really sour note where, you know, she has to abandon her daughter and you can pick up with the daughter in a sequel, and then you've started the story where stories should begin, which is the beginning of the story, as opposed to Kate Blanchett telling you all the interesting stuff that happened and then dumping you into the middle of a story nobody gives a damn about, including the people in the story, and then expecting you to sort of coast along with vague memories of a game that you barely remember playing. So, like, the entire thing was ill-conceived, even admitting all the cut scenes, everything that was evidently butchered in editing. I think the entire premise was always going to be balked.
Oh, it was, you know, that opening, I was like, oh, we're getting a broad view of the story from Kate Blanchett narration. I can't help but think of Lord of the Rings right now. It's like, it's so unfair, but there we are.
It's so funny that she's gone from the heights of cinema to this. You know, like it makes such an interesting comparison. Like, I know she's done a million movies in between, and like she is like an excellent actress, but my God, just this is not her thing in the slightest. I don't know why she was brought into it. I think in most cases the casting is terrible.
I'm sorry. Any movie that casts Kevin Hart in anything, Yeah, his whole thing is just being loud and small and frantic. I like it better when Charlie Day does that exact thing.
The weird thing is he's not even playing up to the whole like comedic aspects of his career. Like he's genuinely, for the most part, he's not trying to be that funny. Like he's a more serious character. And like, yeah, there's one gag about his height, but then apart from that, they don't really mention it. And it's like, again, you've miscast a guy who's like known for being this comedic actor who's small and funny and whatever, and you're trying to make him serious and like an actual legit special forces soldier who can do like he's pretty formidable in combat.
When they gave him the serious sacrifice scene, that was you could see him coming a mile away. I just love they'll get into an elevator. They're like, "All right, go." And it's like, "Oh no, someone has to go outside and press a thing and do a thing to make us all go. Oh no, someone's gonna sacrifice themselves." And he's like, "I'll do it." And the girl's like, "No." The music swells, and you're sitting there like, "I don't care." Why would you?
The thing is, I knew he was going to be alive. Like I knew, like at this point in the movie, it's like this movie is completely consequence free. You know, you've got these crazy sequences where people are gunning down like the what are they called, the Reapers or something, like the crazy guys, the psychos, yeah. Like gunning them down by the dozens, setting them on fire and stuff, blowing them up, and there's not the slightest bit of blood. It's just like a bunch of, you know, extras just lying on the ground. And so again, like with this, I knew he wasn't going to really be in danger. He'd probably make it out. And sure enough, you then get a scene where he's just buried under a big mountain of corpses, gets up like nothing happened, and then off he goes.
That felt odd. Like another amateur mistake, because we could have assumed that's what eventually happened when he was left down there. Instead, they show us everyone's dead, and he gets out of the pile of corpses, and he's like, "Right then, off I go." And then they show his grand reappearance. You'd think most normal movies don't show you the part where he gets back up, so that then they can surprise you when he arrives. Those are really strange decisions. Remember the bit where the lady that's been chasing them throughout the whole movie is like, "No, I will stand with you because I..." And then she just killed. I was like,
yeah. That is possibly the only bit in the movie that got a slight chuckle out of me.
It did out of me. I had to wonder if, like, was I with the film on that one or not? I assume that was intentional because I guess we don't care about whoever she was. It was just funny to see her die. I don't know. It's like, all right then.
Yeah.
One of the things
about...
as well. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I love as well, like, because the Crimson, what are they called? Like the
Crimson Lance.
Crimson Lance, that's it, yeah. So they're sent in, and like their overriding mission is like, you have to recover Tina alive. Like she is the girl, literally the girl who's the key to everything, at least from their point of view. So they're in like a car chase bit, and they are doing everything in their power to blow up the car and kill everyone on board. How does that complete your mission? It's just like, again, dumb stuff like that, where it's like, you're going to kill the person you've specifically been sent here to capture alive and intact because you need her to open the vault. I was like, nah, we'll just kill her. Why?
So, one of the things I love is that, and I said it in my review, that everybody seems as though they're rolling a 20, you know, a tabletop role play reference, because nobody fails at anything throughout the entire movie. And that's the opposite of Borderlands. Is very trial and error. They set up like a checkpoint where you die and you come back, and you die and you come back, and they never get close to that. They never get that feel of you're really in danger on Pandora all the time. That's the whole point. But they never feel like they're in danger once.
Nobody really acts like they're scared or anything. It's like they're more just like momentarily inconvenienced by things, and that's about as far as it goes. And so when the characters don't really care about the danger that they're in, and the script gives us no reason to believe that any of them are really going to die, I'm not going to care when they get put into action sequences because I know they'll all be fine. And so it's so consequence free and light. It's just,
yeah, it was a major problem. Like the first two acts of the film was like almost every single Lilith line was rubbishing where she was, what she was doing, who she was with, what everything looked like. It's like, you are giving my opinions on the movie, but I don't want my protagonist to be doing that for me, because like if you think this is all shit and a waste of your time, then so do I. At least get invested in something. There's got to be some peril and danger in there somewhere. Can we also like say a quick word like in like solidarity, I guess, maybe with Jamie Lee Curtis, who the week after saying that Marvel is in phase bad stars in this movie. Like, that's good timing. Really well done.
She didn't think that one through too well. I mean, she was 100% right about Marvel, but
she put out an apology, and then Ryan Reynolds made fun of her.
I missed that bit.
She said something like, you know, it's inappropriate. She probably shouldn't have said it, la la la. That he said, Does everybody who makes fun of Marvel have to apologize? Because obviously he talked about his little like insulting Wolverine. So
she was like the exact opposite of Kate Blanchett in the movie too. Like Kate Blanchett was, I want to say that they wanted her to be stoic, but she's just dead.
Well, she's not. She's exposition grandma. That's her entire role. It's like she'll have a scene when nothing happens, and then she'll say, "Oh, I suddenly remembered that your mum gave you to me when she went off to find the vault, and you're really important."
But she even jumps from like really hyper to that what you just said, exposition grandma, to that. It's this huge swing between her character throughout every scene that she's in. It's the exact opposite of what Kate Blanchett's doing, which is just this headlines that I need to deliver, and then I'm done. Like it's the exact opposite of that.
This movie has got such a. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think there's something kind of cool about giving older actresses like a chance to do, especially action movies. Like there's something kind of weirdly cool about like older women like firing guns and stuff. But it's so consistent in this film. They even had Gina Gershon as Mad Moxie, and like that character is meant to be like, I don't know, 30 at most. Gina is like 61 years old.
Yeah.
Why?
They somehow made her look older. They actually made her look older somehow. She, like, you see the video, the interviews, and she doesn't look nearly as decrepit as they made her look in the movie.
Well, I mean, no, but in the movie, she's wearing like a corset and everything. Like I don't know, for 61 years old, she probably looks okay, but like she is very much an older actress, and it's just such a weird choice for that character. Because again, like she's meant to be a relatively young character, and she's a femme fatale. Like she's the very definition of that in the games. And here, you're just casting all these weird actresses that are so out of step with the characters they're meant to be playing. Yeah, no idea what the thought process was behind it.
That's who was available. Basically, what
it might be. I don't know if it's a COVID thing or what. Like, you'd think that you want to keep old people away from like film sets and stuff. You know, it's like you guys are vulnerable. Go home or something. I don't know.
But it's like they did this weird thing where they aged up parts of the cast and not other parts. Like Tiny Tina's not aged up. Marcus, the guy who drives the bus, not aged up. But then they age up other people. So it's either you have to do one or the other. Age the whole cast up or don't.
Yeah.
I mean, Eli Roth said he was doing this for the best actors for the job. Okay, that's what he chose. It wasn't about age.
Sure. Yeah. It's great that they brought in Tim Miller as well. Like, you know, the man with the fine pedigree of doing Terminator Dark Fate to work on this movie. Like, okay, yeah. The man's on a roll, clearly. But yeah, I mean, Borderlands, yeah, it's destined to be forgotten as soon as it came out, essentially. I can't imagine it's going to have a great second weekend. And it'll probably be out of cinemas within a week or so.
I mean, I'm kind of hoping the right lessons are taken from it, which is that, you know, you can't just bank on an IP in making a video game movie, which I suspect a lot of studios are looking at doing, because, you know, you've had the success of Mario, Last of Us, Fallout, all these massive IPs which are really popular, and the shows come out and they're also really popular, but the temptation is always just to read that as, well, that's because people are familiar with them and they already love them, so you can give them any old shit and they'll come and watch it. That never used to work for video games, and it still won't work for video games as movie adaptations. So hopefully any other studio currently looking at doing a video game movie will look at this and say, yeah, well, we are actually going to have to tell something like a story here. We can't just have familiar things. Key jangling doesn't work. We can't all be Deadpool and Wolverine. Sometimes, you know, stuff has to happen.
Take note, Resident Evil. It'd be nice if you like tried to actually produce a half-decent TV show or movie. Like anything would do at this point.
Funny how we flow in and out of this video game nightmare, because yeah, they may as well just be like, you know what the problem was? We didn't do enough. We got to do more. We got to find more games to do this with. Isn't J.J. Abrams supposed to be doing a Portal movie at some point?
Oh God.
How would that even work, really? Like,
how would that work?
It's a puzzle game.
It's never stopped them, Doc.
Well, I go through this portal, and then I go through another portal. That would just be an hour and a half of the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, set two portals in the floor and then keep falling infinitely. Like it's just
that's just the movie.
I'm gonna drop all of this huge amount of desk chairs, and I'm just gonna keep falling for 20 minutes.
Yeah. the only other thing I was going to ask about, because Snarky Jay, you're a cosplayer, I'm reliably informed. Like the costumes in that movie were god awful. Like they looked like the kind of thing a cosplayer would be embarrassed to put on. From my
Yeah, I'm not gonna
like,
lie. It all looked like Amazon shit to me. I think one of the better things about Borderlands is that cel-shaded style, and if they weren't gonna replicate that in real life, because I've seen cosplayers do like the cel-shaded cosplays and they look fantastic. I get that they didn't want to do that in a live action movie, but then what you need to rely on is stuff that is high contrast and textured really nicely, and everything looked like it would be available at Spirit Halloween and I would ignore it. Like it was just so unserious. Like you'd think at least Borderlands with that super unique aesthetic, they would try and do something with that. And they phoned it in on that shit too. Like absolutely. They were just bad. It would have
been really cool if they experimented with that cel shading cosplay type people. Because I've seen what you're talking about. Some people actually like walk around in real life as though they're cel shaded. It's the kind of shit that you just go, whoa. How much effort did that go into that? And if they did that in the movie, which probably would have been cheaper too.
Like make it like mostly animated or something, like as a.
We could go that direction
style.
as well. Yeah, of course.
Or use that filter that they did in the Take On Me music video. Just like everybody looks sketched. That would be cool or not.
But yeah,
maybe that's 280s.
Because yeah, like people like Cate Blanchett in this movie, they look like they showed up for the costume fitting right there and then, and they were given this fucking weird costume that looks like garbage, and then they just look uncomfortable and angry that they're having to wear this. Like I thought I was going to be in a serious movie, and this is what I'm doing. You know, and it's like, well, okay, if you don't want to be here, then neither do I as the audience member.
Pretty much.
They were even doing like CG over bodies though, because if you look at certain scenes, you can see they did the digital abs over Krieg, you know, because he wasn't in good enough shape already. But you could see it; it's very obvious. So they could have even done that kind of cel shading in post, I guess, if they're going to just throw CG over people anyway.
It's funny that they would do that to him because that dude was in like Creed 2, wasn't he? He played like Ivan Drago's son.
Yep.
And he is massive. Like he is properly ripped as it is. I don't know why he needs
his primary role being the guy with the sword hand in Shang-Chi. Okay.
Yep.
Of course, yeah, that guy. Yeah. We all remember him.
My favorite.
He cut a bus in half, Drinker. He cut a goddamn bus in half.
Yeah. He's that fucking hard. There was another thing that came out recently. It was interesting sort of tidbit of information dropped by Chris Gore, where he mentioned that we in the world of Star Wars, Kathleen Kennedy has presided over Lucasfilm for the past 12 years, 12 glorious years of non-stop hits and success. But time calls for us all, and she's like 500 years old at this point, and she's thinking about retiring finally, but wants to go out on a big win apparently. Either a big commercial and or preferably critical success as well. And she's waiting for that before she eventually leaves. And I just thought, well, you're never leaving then because you ain't going to get it. It made me laugh.
Chair.
Yeah. And it made me laugh because it's like, imagine being that privileged as a manager of a company, as a president of a film studio, where you can essentially say, no, I'm not going until I do something good. And I don't care how many times I fail. I'm not going to leave. And everyone else around you just saying, okay, fine, sure.
I can buy that, though. She's like, I'd rather leave on a high note. Like, let's just get one really great, influential, culturally shocking movie that everyone loves, and then I'll go. I don't know what Drinker just said. It's like, you're going to be here for a while. Wait.
But most people wouldn't even get that opportunity. They would be told, no, you fucked up like multiple times. You're out the door. I don't care if you're leaving on a sour note. Like you're not performing, you're not doing your job. But somehow she gets a free pass.
Why the shareholders don't just, I don't know, pack her shit and put her outside? Because it's not like, oh, she's the president of Lucasfilm, she's the only one who has a say. I mean, at this point, it's almost like an overserved alcoholic. Call in the guard. Toss her ass out on the sidewalk. What has Kathleen Kennedy given us that hasn't been shit in the past few years? Let her go. Put her potted plants in a box. Let's get somebody in here that knows some shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think she's just too powerful within the industry. I think, well, it's a combination, I guess, of like she knows everyone, I suppose, having worked in the industry longer than I've been alive. And she is a woman, and so it's really bad optics if you were to push her out. And I imagine if she wanted to, she could kick up a really big stink if they tried to force her out against her will.
I'd be curious how she looks back as well and explains her current tenure. Like if she said, the sequels are actually incredibly successful. If you look at, these metrics or whatever, and so actually Star Wars is incredibly healthy, as is a lot of Disney products, and that we're doing really well as a company of Lucasfilm, and nothing to worry about. And then the people in the room are just like, "What?
What franchise are you part of?"
She would somehow turn it into a COVID thing. She'd be like, "Oh yeah, COVID happened." I'd be like, "All 3 movies came out before that," and she'd be like, "No, it was definitely COVID. There's no way that had nothing to do with it."
COVID was brewing, in the background, and that was starting to influence people.
I for one hope she never retires. I hope they figure out a way to clone her, because I want to keep it just tearing apart everything that Lucasfilm does. So
it's when in the very future Lucasfilm meetings, it's basically Kylo Ren going to meet Palpatine. It's just it's KK hooked up to the cloning chair. I have resigned before. You're still there.
I for one would love it.
The thing is, as well, if she does eventually go, obviously sooner or later she will have to, but I would imagine she's just going to nominate someone equally bad to replace her. And I would imagine she's got a very strong say on who her replacement is. That'll probably be part of her deal to eventually leave. And so I'm sure it'll be someone who's equally bought into her worldview and will just want to carry on her legacy.
It just came to me. It's Leslie Headland.
I was thinking the same.
As
How
you
much
said
you
it, I was
bet that wouldn't even launch careers. We would all just collectively have a group heart attack, and all that would be left were the shills to put her on a pedestal.
No, I would just start. I would just start writing commercials. I would just be like, "No, commercial for this show, commercial for this show."
They do have a major problem with succession planning. It's basically all across Disney. Bob Iger appoints Bob Chapek, and that goes terribly, and Bob Iger comes back. But that was, a hand-picked appointment that he thought would allow him to keep his, luxury office with his shower so he could still technically rule the place. Lots of these people just don't leave because they don't fundamentally want to let go of the power they have. And because they don't want to let go of the power they have real trouble identifying anyone who could potentially be a successor, because the likely person to be a successor is someone who would already have threatened them by being a potential challenge to their power and authority. This is why so many of these big companies end up going bust in the long run, is because they don't actually promote a culture of growth where they encourage talented people to come in and shake the boat. They just try and find the most pliant person who will say yes long enough in order that the person can retire on what they conceive of as being a high, and the person they pick to replace them has never learned the talents that they need to actually make a success of any of these endeavors. And so I could see this going the same way. I wouldn't be entirely surprised if they were grooming Dave Filoni for some sort of even bigger role than the current one he's got, but he's useless, so it won't do them any good.
Yeah. I imagine from her point of view, Dave Filoni is the ideal subordinate because he's retarded, and two, he's got no spine, and so he is quite willing to just do whatever she says, which is perfect because then he's no threat to her. So he's the ideal guy he probably knows just enough about Star Wars that he can chart out a bunch of shows that will keep the content pipeline going. But he's not going to have any aspirations to take over her job, or at least he's not going to have the balls to actually try and move on it. So that's fine. I don't know. I just imagine, call me crazy, you're going to get to a certain stage in your life, like Bob Iger, when you're in your mid-70s, and just think, you know what? I'm old and I'm tired, and I don't maybe have that many years ahead of me. I'd rather spend the rest of my time relaxing and just going on vacations and spending the millions of dollars that I have, rather than dragging my arse into an office every day and taking heat from everyone because my company's falling apart. I don't know. Do you not want to get out at a certain point, or is it pure narcissism that keeps driving you?
Lots of people don't. They had to dig Saddam Hussein out of a hole. So, lots of these people don't actually like leaving ever, and they will never leave until they die.
That's what will happen with Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy.
You're hiding in a sewer pipe somewhere.
No, it'll be a hole on one of their sound stages. They'll just open up the soundstage hole. There you go.
We're gonna have to send a Delta Force team in to get him.
I feel like with Kennedy though, she has to at minimum get to the Rey film. That's what I've been saying all along. That is the culmination of everything that she has done. And if she doesn't see that through, and it doesn't get made, and it's like for some reason, like if she's not there to make sure it gets made, I know she doesn't have a legacy, but in her mind she does. That tarnishes it. So that's the big thing for her. After that, I think she doesn't care as much anymore. But that is, that's the apex point that she has to get to.
I think you're probably right. I think she probably had high hopes for the Acolyte as well. Like that could have potentially been an out if it had been some kind of massive success, because I'm sure it represents her worldview very, very neatly. And if that had been a big hit, she could have said like, "Oh, okay, my work is done. I'm off now." But yeah, I think you're probably right. The Rey movie is going to be the big focal point. I don't know how.
So does this mean we're gonna have to collectively like all buy out a movie theater to watch the Rey movie and make it a financial success? So she'll
actually
just
not that expensive to do. In my hometown, you can.
I'll
you can
do
buy
it
out a
if it gets her
theater
to
for
fuck
$100.
off. I'll do it.
I mean, ultimately, time is going to do our work for us, and she'll just eventually die. I suppose.
Jesus, we'll try and make the Rey movie a success so that she can move on, but instead she announces the Rey cinematic universe. You guys love Rey.
Also, it turns out the Fountain of Youth just happens to be right in the middle of Disney Park in Florida, so we're good.
Yeah, I mean, with that Rey movie, I can't wait for that to come out. I can't wait for the first trailer to just see what calamity they inflict upon us. But
as if Star Wars needs more reasons to be fucking drove into the ground. Why a Rey movie, you fools? But then, of course, Lando and Grogu getting their movie. That'll be great. There you go.
I feel bad for Daisy Ridley. Like, she probably takes a lot of heat for this, but ultimately she's just an actress doing a job. And probably for this, like for the Rey movie, it's like this is the last high-profile role I'll ever have. So
if they had like a really good writer director, we probably could have gotten a decent character and performance out of it that people actually, cared about. But
yeah, I mean, it really wasn't her fault. I think just like with the prequels, like everybody dogged Hayden Christensen for a terrible performance. I don't think Hayden Christensen was the problem with the prequels. I don't think that Daisy Ridley is the problem with Rey. I think Rey is the problem with Rey. I think it was just that Disney was like, "Oh, you like plucky young? Yeah, here's this, and while we put this on a pedestal, which is awful, we're also gonna have like all your heroes just go to shit. Leia's gonna float through space like you're playing with an action figure. Luke is just gonna disintegrate because he gave up. Like, of course we're gonna fucking hate Rey. That's no reflection on Daisy Ridley, but I don't understand why this is the move. Like, who asked for this movie?
I think probably like DarkHour said, I think it's a way of cementing her legacy. I think it's a way of saying like Rey is not just the person who capped off the Skywalker saga, but she's also going to kickstart the next generation of Star Wars storytelling. And man, in some part of her mind, she's probably even hoping like if the Rey movie does like $1 billion or more, we're going to have a trilogy of Rey movies to then eventually pass the torch on to another diverse female character who's going to like carry on the Star Wars legacy. But like that's probably the thinking there, because it allows you to then say, right, I have put my stamp on Star Wars, not just for a trilogy, but like an entire, the whole future of Star Wars is now belonging to me and the character that I helped to create. I think there might be that degree of narcissism involved there.
Yeah, it's the maximum ego stroke possible for Kathleen Kennedy. You can see her after the first Rey movie, which I agree is almost certainly going to be, at least in hopes, the beginning of a new trilogy, that she'll be able to stand there and say, I am the one who bridged the gap between generations. I capped off the story that George Lucas began by respecting all of the characters that he built and the world that he made. I did all of that, and now I have set Star Wars on its newer, optimistic, hopeful path. Things are looking good. This is my time to bow out. I can see her trying that, and if the Rey movie bombs, then she'll try it with the next one, and then the next one for all time.
Do you think? Sorry,
I was just going to say, the audiences for Disney, like at D23 and stuff, when they announce something like let's just say she said there's a Rey trilogy coming out, they actually start cheering. Do you think it'd be possible to get that kind of reaction if you took over Disney and you had a big show of the next D23, whatever, thing like that, but your format was actually just showing all of the worst things that happened across Disney's tenure and saying non-canon, non-canon, with like a big explode, loads of animations, maybe even some fireworks. Do you think you could get the audience like actually cheering when you announce this stuff, or do you think they'd be confused?
Are you using the same way that they do? Because they strategically choose those people. Those are probably mostly actors.
I think the people who go to D23, one, the people who are actually interested in going, and then two, the people that they allow in are probably vetted, and so it's very much shills essentially.
Do you think I could get in next year if I wear like a fake mustache and a turtleneck?
I think if you go in dressed in as Rey, right, in full cosplay as Rey, you'd probably get in.
You know what? I hate to say it. I did charity events for a short bit as Rey because I wanted to not do Rey and I couldn't be Leia. So I had to dress. And every time I did it, I was like, I genuinely feel like God is going to strike lightning upon me for doing this shit. Because it was an affront to everything I believed in. I'm like, you won't let me be Boba Fett, but I have to show up as Rey.
Did you have a Joker moment in the mirror where like you're trying to paint a smile onto your face and you just start crying? Like,
I was doing the buns and sobbing.
Yeah, even Jyn Erso would have done better than Rey. Jesus.
Yeah, but she blew up. Nobody remembers Jyn Erso, which is how they conveniently say we hate women, even though we made that movie over $1 billion. But that's none of my business.
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah, she was like. She's forgotten she was inoffensive, really. It was like nobody even remembers. It's the first second there, I was like, oh, yeah. Felicity Jones, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not a huge amount of personality going on there, but like, yeah, I think inoffensive is probably the best word I can use to describe her. Like, she was fine, I guess.
I think the thing that she's most remembered for is the fact that they took the line from the trailer out. I rebel. Like, that was not in the movie.
That was very sad that they did that. It reminds me of... what was the thing that did that recently?
A lot of things do that. Almost every movie now has.
Oh, Madam Web obviously was famous for it.
Oh yes.
That was a sad time. It's like, you know, we may be making fun of it, but in a way, if your movie's bad, just leave it in. It'll make us happier.
It's a sign of the amount of reshoots that movies go through now. Like when the trailers bear almost no relation to the actual finished product because it's been re-chopped up and reshot so many times since then. You know, you end up losing so much stuff. But I think, I don't know, man. I think Borderlands might have taken the title of Worst Movie of the Year from Madam Web. I think if I was forced to, I'd probably watch Madam Web.
Madam Web's funny,
rather than Borderlands.
Madam Web does have more Sydney Sweeney in it, so therefore that is a
but it's a
low grade Sweeney.
Yeah, she's not.
Yes, but low grade Sweeney is still better than pretty much everyone that was in Borderlands.
That is true, yeah. On the basis that she's not 60 years old. Like so.
Jesus Christ.
That's a benefit. I was going to ask as well, are you guys excited for Skeleton Crew? Because that's a thing that's apparently happening in Star Wars. How dare you
ask that question when you know several people have no idea what you're talking about?
I barely have any idea what I'm talking about with this one.
People in chat are like, oh, is that like a new movie that's coming out? New IP?
It's a live action TV show that cost a lot of money apparently, and nobody knows about it. No one cares about it. It's a nothing burger.
It's sort of also a testament to part of one of Kathleen Kennedy's allures, though, and one of the reasons she stays in her position is that she does have quite a lot of reach, and lots of people remember all the things she used to be attached to. So, from what I remember reading, the Skeleton Crew show was pitched to them specifically as an Amblin-style show. And of course, like if you know the head of Amblin is also head of Lucasfilm, then like you're going to take it to them, aren't you? Like she still has reach. People still look up to the things that she used to do. And if they have an idea, they have a reasonable shot of getting it made if they suck up to her past reputation. So Skeleton Crew is Amblin. We have 4 kids who end up sort of traveling across the galaxy. There's some production photos that take Amblin Entertainment a bit too literally, because it's literally just the driveway from E.T. now in Star Wars. And that will be the overall tone. It's going to be sort of like vaguely Stranger Things meets Star Wars would be my guess.
Goonies in space.
That's literally the entire chat is saying Goonies in space.
Because, you know, looking at the trailer, it was this weird mishmash of like American suburbia mixed with Star Wars. And I'm like, I don't get how those things are supposed to marry up. It's such a weird, like, Star Wars is meant to be a galaxy far, far away. It's meant to be different from what we experience. Like, even as a starting point, like Luke on Tatooine, he was living on a desert planet. Like, it looked kind of exotic, even though his life was quite mundane and boring. Like, it was at least wild and different from what we experience. But seeing this, it's like, oh, this is like honestly, too close to home.
I feel like those conversations...
It feels like they're trying to make it too relatable.
Those conversations will become much more important if this show is even close to tolerable. If it's not, no one's even gonna, like, you know, it depends on what kind of dialogue quality you're dealing with, what kind of stories, what kind of characters. If all those things are passable to good, then we can be like, okay, well, I still wouldn't have done this direction. I don't think this is suitable for Star Wars universe. I don't know they understand their audience, all this sort of stuff. But like, we have no reason to think this isn't going to be abysmal garbage that everyone will ignore anyway. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, even if it was a galaxy far, far away, even if it had characters we care about. I mean, we've seen them do characters we care about in the past, you know.
What was that other show that you guys were covering on Stargrift that no one gave a fuck about? Was it the Bad Batch? Yeah. It's just going to be like that, basically. Like, it'll come and go, no one will care.
I think so, yeah.
Won't it be a little bit worse? Because, I mean, I've not seen much of Bad Batch. From what I understand, though, it does at least stick sort of to a Star Wars aesthetic. Like, it does look recognizably Star Wars, as opposed to recognizably Star Wars trying to look recognizably something else, which has been like a consistent problem with this sort of, that people are like now insanely literal when they say that we're going to be inspired by this influence. What they mean these days is we're just going to do this influence. It's why you get bullet time in The Acolyte and obvious Matrix ripoffs, and you've got Dave Filoni making Japanese a part of Galactic Basics. So Ahsoka Tano is literally a Ronin, and Jabba the Hutt is literally a daimyo. And all of this is because the defense will be, well, George Lucas took inspiration from all over the place. And so we're allowed to do one inspiration, missing the point that what Lucas did, of course, was, you know, combine all of these things into a brand new innovative aesthetic, which is something they don't seem to have the creativity to do. And so, like, looking at production stills from, I've already forgotten the name of it. What's coming out at the end of this year? Skeleton Crew, that's the one. Looking at those production stills, you can kind of tell what the level of creativity is going to be, which is that is what they're doing. They are just doing a literal interpolation. They're not actually creating anything innovative and new. They're just going to crib from other things that are recognizably other things and then say, well, George Lucas did that, which he didn't.
What I can say about Bad Batch, by the way, is it's better than Book of Boba Fett, Kenobi, Ahsoka, Acolyte, and that tells you absolutely nothing.
Yeah, that's not saying much.
kind of similar to what Platoon said, though, is this feels almost as it came from a meeting where they said something along the lines of, like, we could slap Star Wars on anything and it'll just sell. And it was like probably an idea that they had bopping around for a while from something like that has finally just made its way out of the pipeline. Because that was the thought process for a long time early on in the whole thing, was that Star Wars is just like a stamp you could just slap on anything and it'll just make money.
Well, they couldn't even slap it on fucking Han Solo as a movie. Yeah. They couldn't even make money.
I was curious as well, like, in terms of like IPs or products that just reference previous stuff. You guys, or some of the people on this stream tonight have seen Alien Romulus, and I'm curious, because we've got another guy backstage, Lance, who's one of my mods, who I've streamed with multiple times over the years. He's seen it as well. I don't want to go into spoilers because I know the movie's just come out, but it would be interesting just to hear your guys' initial thoughts on it. And Lance, welcome to the stream, my friends. You've just got back from seeing it literally tonight. You've seen it.
His face sums it up. Basically,
I saw it at the London premiere last night. I mean, I don't want to get into spoilers, but as soon as I heard them say the line "Get away from her, you bitch," I was like, "You didn't."
Oh
you
no!
Did.
They didn't do that.
You did, and like this was the premiere. People were groaned at that line. So anyway, but the thing is like in Alien, you know, your crew is basically your trucker crew. They're working class, kind of ordinary people, right? But even though some of them are quite annoying, you're still kind of rooting for all of them. There's something about each one of them that you like. And that's good writing. It's good performances. It's down to the right combination of the cast and the thing. In the first 10 minutes of this, it's like, this character is slightly annoying. This character is mildly annoying. This character is extremely annoying. I hope they die really soon. And you're by the end of the movie, you're rooting for the alien to kill these people, and I don't think that's really what's supposed to happen. I think you're really supposed to be on the side of the. So that for me, having a main protagonist that you were not really. I didn't know enough about the lead character, and I wasn't invested enough in this person also to believe that she could do certain things or whatever. They didn't go full girl boss or anything like that. But I mean, the film does have some good things, but it's got a lot of bad.
I mean, in the original Alien, like the hallmark of that was that the characters were not dumb or anything. Like they actually made smart, logical decisions based on what they knew to try and counter the alien. Like, and I take it we're not getting that in this movie.
They're dumb kids in space. It's dumb teens doing dumb things in dumb space.
The log line for this film should be Alien Romulus. People do stupid shit again, because that's what they did in the last movie, and they really do some really stupid things. And I just was like, you know, I mean, even if you're just kind of kids that don't know that much stuff, you do know that you're in space, and you know that you shouldn't fire at walls and that kind of stuff. And those aren't the stupid decisions they make. I'm trying not to give spoilers here, but they do really. Not just dumb things, but annoying things that just annoy you, as opposed to intelligent, good things that just don't happen to work. That, you know,
I will add this, that there is a couple of things that I will throw out as good. So the first, I'd say 2/3 of the movie does have a really good aesthetic to it. They don't overly rely on CG. The latter portion, they really start pulling the CG in, which sucks. Let me see. I have like several notes here that I took.
Like they kept the technology the same from the first.
Yes, everything is very similar.
Like all the computers and all of that stuff looks like it should. It doesn't. You don't feel like we're in a different universe. That's really good. Like DarkHour said,
it does feel connected. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah. Right. The aesthetic is great. The effects are good. There's some really good photography.
In terms of the era that we're in, because like obviously, you know, you get the first Alien movie. The second one is like 60 years later.
It's
like,
between.
Where do we sit in that time?
It's between. It's about 2 decades after the first movie. They mentioned that they even. Should I say this? There is a character that appears from the first movie, so it is.
Okay.
I mean, you can find out who just by looking at the IMDb.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a huge spoiler because you could just go to the wiki.
Is it like inconsequential? Did you guys cringe with that appearance? Or?
I wouldn't say I cringed. I cringed that he became so involved with the plot. If it would have just been something that happened quickly and it was like okay, but he was pretty much in the whole movie. And I don't know about the whole film, but I'm undecided about whether that was a good idea or not. It was a nice surprise, but I'm undecided about whether it was a good idea or not. I don't know. This film could have been so much more original. The Dark Horse comics are packed full of really good alien stories, lots of action, and not just a repeat of Aliens. And I just don't understand why they haven't bought the license for one of those and filmed it. I just don't understand, because they don't have to buy the license anymore. The Marvel now officially has that dark horse.
Well,
license.
there we are. So
they don't need to do that.
I mean, there you go. So that's not that excuse.
At the very least, like okay, like even if the characters are dumb and not that likable, like are the horror elements any good? Like, is there any decent action sequences in it?
It's one really good original action scene I thought was pretty cool, but
most of the horror is stuff that we've seen already. Unfortunately, there's nothing really original about it. The one thing I said early on, until the very end, which
there's one original thing which sucks. Just, when they did it, I went, oh no, you haven't done that again, have you?
Yeah,
and you know
there was 2 things. So early on, they kind of show the way that Weyland-Yutani treats blue collar workers in a really interesting way, but they do it in the first 5 to 10 minutes of the movie, and then they never really address it again, which sucks. Which that could have been a good thing, and they didn't go that route. I'm just kind of like going through my notes here for which ones are.
I did like the setup of this is what it's like to work on a whale in your tiny planet. It was very Blade Runner. You got about 10 minutes of it, huge sets, lots of extras, really well visualized, really well shot. And for the first 10 minutes, I was lured into this full sense of security. This is really good.
Lance, let me ask you this: Did you get this same sense as me? I felt like the movie itself felt like it took way too long to start and then took way too long to end. Almost like there was no middle. Like it was all beginning and end.
It is true. It took a bit of a while for the first kind of proper jump scare with consequences to actually take place.
40 minutes in, actually. I looked at the time. It was 40 minutes in.
The ending was just really long-winded with, it was a bit like the Terminator film, except that's good. And you have another bit, and then you think everything's done, but it's not done, and then you have another bit, and it's just by then I was just like, oh Christ, when's this thing going to end?
And they have
on this film,
No, they have this weird subplot about essentially the best way I could put it is like racism against the androids, but they use the term obsolete in like a replacement for retarded. Like it's the best way I could put it. It's because the one that is the main character. I don't know if he's the main male character, if you want to call it that, is clearly not functioning as properly for big chunks of the movie, and then they do kind of fix that.
You're talking about the character of Andy.
Andy. And
David Johnson,
and he plays it really well, but they are using that as a stand-in for people with mental deficiencies and stuff, that he's obsolete. They just keep saying obsolete over and over again, and it's a weird subplot that didn't need to be there. Because it doesn't really play too hard into the film. It's just that beginning and that first 30 minutes or so, and it just felt so jarring compared to the rest of the film.
I just didn't. His arc, which started off as quite interesting, they just overplayed it, and they went back and forth on it too much, and I just by the end of it, I just didn't care. So, the film looks really good. It's really well shot. There's some beautiful visuals, especially some very sort of nods to 2001 and that kind of thing. But great shots alone do not for a fantastic movie make. And the characters are the characters in this film are the problem, and I just didn't care about them.
I don't think any of the actors were really good. I mean, I don't know who most of them are, and the ones that I do know weren't in anything. It's one of them is the one chick from the Hispanic chick from Madam Web, Merced,
which I have
the main character, the main character girl, and she has maybe one scene in the whole movie where I'm like, oh, she's actually acting in that scene. The rest of it is very deadpan. You never get the sense that they're truly afraid of what's going on around them.
She's not having a great year, is she? To be in Madam Web and then apparently like Alien Romulus, which seems to be shit as well.
The ultimate question, right, for both of you. You got to rank it in the pantheon of alien films. What is above and below it?
No, I'd say it's not as bad as the one set in the space station where they're doing the experiments. The fourth one. It's not as bad as the fourth one.
Yeah,
better than Resurrection.
I'd say that it's a like a finger above that, like when the alien puts its finger and it's climbing out, it's like that level above that one. But
I would agree that's probably
better than Resurrection. There you go.
Yeah. I would say that's probably correct. It probably is a little bit worse than 3, the director's cut of 3, but not a little bit better than Resurrection.
I don't think it's anywhere near as good as the director's cut of 3. Some of the characters in that film were actually quite interesting, even if they did just swear a lot and tended to bend a bit. But
what about by comparison to the more recent ones, Prometheus and Covenant? Like, is it an improvement on those?
Well, funny you should.
Why did you say that name?
Funny you should mention Prometheus, because the word Prometheus gets mentioned in the film, and there's a direct link. Now, I won't say any more.
I think you may have given it honestly, I don't think it's going to change too much. There's some black shit involved. That's all you need.
Oh god,
yeah,
God.
Yeah, mate.
What was the black goo?
Yeah. So I don't. There's actually like a plot point to it that is really dumb. That might be the only thing I could say is that you might want to watch it just to see how dumb that black shit can get.
I mean, it's already massively dumb.
Yeah.
Like, I know. I'm not even going back to what Covenant does.
DNA. It makes complete sense.
Platoon, you're definitely going to want to take a big swig from that glass you're holding, man. It's
oh god, okay, I will do.
Dude, when the trailer came out, I was like pretty cynical, and people felt I was too cynical. Apparently, I wasn't cynical enough because you guys have made it sound pretty miserable.
Well, I watched 10 seconds of the trailer, and I thought the trailer showed me too much already, and I switched it off. And I've never seen anything since. I haven't read any articles, nothing. So I went into it completely blind, apart from having seen 10 seconds of the trailer, and I just thought, I'll give it a fair shake. And
the trailer just looked mildly competent, and I was just hoping for a generic Aliens movie that wouldn't rock the boat, it wouldn't do anything crazy, but it would just be like blandly acceptable. I think that's the best we can hope for at this point with the franchise.
It's not a terrible film. It's just I just wasn't invested in the characters, and for me, that's always a problem. I think the younger generation might. Oh my god, an alien in the room!
Fuck. It's weird. I saw it on my screen, and for a moment, I was like, "What the fuck is that?"
I mean, the silhouette was pretty close. Did someone mention my name?
It definitely plays it safe, leaning on a lot of the tropes from the previous movies, even a lot of references. It definitely used some of its best shots in the trailer, which is pretty common nowadays anyway. I think MauLer, was it you who said that Fringy? I think you said Fringy said it was a 4 at best, and that's probably what I would.
He said he could be argued up to a full maybe, but it would definitely not go any higher than that.
I would like to see that if there's some sort of director's cut or something.
I'd give it a 5 out of 10. I don't think a director's cut's going to help it, because there are too many core fundamental things that just weren't working for me personally. I think the younger generation might buy into it. I think people that didn't grow up with the same Alien films that I grew up with are probably going to be less critical of it, and that's fine. And if they love it, good stuff.
I don't know. I mean, as against that, I don't think alive when most of the good Alien films came out, and I still hold them to a much higher standard than anything that's come out while I've been alive. In fact, I kind of resent my generation for creating Prometheus and Covenant.
But that was Ridley.
That was Ridley. No, that's a good point. No, okay, going to see them. Let's say that they gave them another film after Prometheus. That's my problem.
I mean, I think that's pretty damning.
I think the soul of Little Platoon has always been here. So,
eternal.
Yeah, I don't want to say too much more because then I'm going into like true spoiler territory. But it's I've tried my best to work around it. It's definitely it is not going to save the franchise. That is what I will say.
Well, guys, I appreciate you sharing your thoughts on this one. And Lan, thank you for dropping in for a little bit just to give us your opinion on it. I appreciate that.
No worries, man. Is it all right for me to mention about Gale?
Yes. So, on the subject of aliens, you're going to be talking to Galen Hurd, the producer for Aliens and the Terminator movies.
So, Galen Hurd's coming on my channel for an hour-long interview on the 25th of September. And she's already been on my channel once when I interviewed the director of Tremors. She came on as a surprise guest.
That's cool.
And I sort of waited patiently to get her back on. And I've got to submit all my questions in advance. So I'm trying to work through exactly what I'm going to try and stay off kind of Aliens and Terminator 2, and because she's done loads of Q&As on all that already, and I want to talk to her more about the other films that she's produced. But I am curious to know if she's going to see it, Alien Romulus. But whether I'll ask that question on air or not, I don't know.
Oh, before you guys done with the topic, I guess, how do you think it'll do with general audiences?
I think under 30s. I think under 30s will probably be okay with it. I think my generation will probably be less than impressed. That's my gut feeling. But
I would agree with that, and I have a feeling that there's going to be a huge drop off in the second week. I think there's going to be some decent interest this weekend. I don't know what the budget was. It only because of that it's a horror movie. That I would assume that the budget's relatively low. It might get close to being profitable on that but I doubt it. I just have a feeling there's going to be a huge downturn when the word of mouth comes out.
Just as an FYI, the budget is set at 80 million apparently, which is quite low. It's quite low, but like I figured for a sci-fi movie, you know, if you've got like spaceship sets and stuff, like you're going to need a decent amount of special effects.
Yeah,
but I thought it would have been higher.
To be fair, the budget's on the screen. The budget's on the screen. The sets are amazing. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of practical effects. The aliens look good. You know, the facehuggers look good.
In principle, I like this idea of like a sub $100 million movie like this. They're still able to summon up some decent special effects and stuff like that's good. It's just, support it with good writing as well. That's what seems to be lacking in this one, by all accounts. But
and some endearing characters would be good.
But yeah, thanks Lance for coming on for that. I appreciate for like hearing your take on the movie and DarkHour as well. Thank you for telling us.
No worries, man. I'll duck out because I've got a panel on it in a little bit, and we're gonna talk about it some more. Oh my god!
If you guys want more in-depth analysis of the film, then the link there is up on the screen to subscribe to Lance's channel. Go join him after this. They'll be talking more in detail about it.
And I've got the DOP of Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors coming next Friday as well. So he's going to be a really interesting guest. He's done about 80 movies. Roy Wagner. So
nice.
that'll be interview 74 for me in 2 years. So I'm pretty chuffed. So thanks for the support, and thank you for your continued support. I really appreciate it. Nice to meet Snarky, who I don't think I've met before. This panel is way better looking than I remember.
Especially MauLer. MauLer's the best looking one here.
Yeah, that's why he has to wear the gas mask because we'd be overwhelmed by his beauty.
All right, guys, I'm going to check out. I'll see you soon. Drinker, I'll speak to you soon.
Cool, thanks, man.
See you, dude.
The other thing I was going to cover a little bit was at D23, we were all treated to the first trailer for Snow White, and I know we were all excited to see it, and my eyes are still recovering from that. I had to wear these sunglasses to watch that trailer because it made Ghostbusters 2016 look like a Zack Snyder movie. It was possibly the most colorful thing I've ever seen in cinema, and not in a good way. And I guess I'm curious to hear what you guys thought about it. Has it redeemed Snow White? Is it going to make everyone want to go watch it now?
Do you want me to go into parody mode here? Because I can be like, yes, it's
whatever way you want to approach it, man. I don't mind.
It was bad. That's I'm just shocked that they were only. I know it's supposed to be a teaser, but it seemed like there wasn't even enough for a teaser in the trailer. It felt like they just pieced together what little they could, and I would assume that that's mostly because of all the reshoots and re-edits and everything that they had to do, and they're probably still working on it.
I would imagine so, yeah, because it was delayed by a full year after the backlash against it, and it's amazing that a star of a movie can. Well, it wasn't entirely Rachel Zegler's fault. Like, I think she was probably fed some really crap talking points from her PR people, but that combined with the leaked set photos, the whole like revamp for modern audiences angle, the fact that they don't even have dwarves in it anymore, apparently, although now they do, mysteriously, because they didn't want to offend Peter Dinklage.
I missed the baristas. I missed the magical baristas.
Well, yeah, I mean, even that probably looked better than these horrifying creations. It's like watching a bunch of rubber mannequins like waddling about the set. Like, it's so uncanny and weird to see them, especially to see them next to an actual human like Rachel Zegler. Like, it just, the contrast is so horrifically jarring. I don't even know what to make of it.
Yeah, and then is it just me, or does the whole thing, like, I don't want to say that it looks like it's covered in pee, so I'm going to say it gently. It looks like it's like sepia toned for some reason. There's like this weird filter applied to the whole thing too, and I don't know if they were trying to make it feel more vintage so we wouldn't get the whole like modern audience thing, but I feel like we're way past that. There was nothing to me that looked adequate about this. I was losing my mind about the Lord Farquaad haircut. You know, I don't want to dislike Rachel Zegler. That's the haircut is not her fault, but somebody should have done something right there because that was just terrible.
The whole thing, like, because I get the impression, like, that whole set that she was dancing in with dwarves, none of that was actually real. Like, none of that was physically in existence. It was all just her on a green screen. And I just thought, man, you could have just done this so much more easily if you just got a bunch of actual human dwarf actors to play these characters, done it on a real set that was actually physically there.
Yeah, with the money they're spending, they could build the house easily.
Yeah. Instead, you get this weird uncanny valley crap that it's like, you know, this actress trying to dance around a bunch of nothingness and make it seem like a real dance routine with real people, and like everything's composited in afterwards. It looks horrific. You know, the whole problem that they have with Gal Gadot is meant to be the evil, wicked stepmother who's jealous of Snow White's looks. I mean,
Snow White, no.
Well, remember, now they're trying to justify it and say that the evil queen, her whole thing is not fairest as in who's more beautiful. It's fairest as in who is more, like, fair. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm slightly less problematic than the evil queen, and I don't give a shit who's more fair. I would be more worried that a mirror was telling me that Rachel Zegler's the better looking one. I might set fire to a kingdom as well.
I must have missed this part. So what, they're actually doing fair as in like the moral quality. So like the evil queen is now trying to be nicer than Snow White?
That's what I keep seeing on like Twitter and Reddit from the people that are defending it, because they keep seeing that as a talking point, and they're like, no, what it means is like she's just. I'm like, I don't know, I'm pretty sure she's an asshole and is aware of that.
Dude, that's just funny,
but I don't know, whatever.
The filmmakers were like, we're gonna have to switch it to a moral qualities because no one's gonna believe that the mirror thinks that he's calling.
Also, it's such a dumb thing because it's like, okay, I can understand in the original story, it's like, well, you can't change, like, you're born ugly or you're born beautiful, like not much you can do about that. Okay, so like if you happen to be one way or the other and you're resentful of someone else, you want to take that from them, fine. But if you're resentful of someone who's just nicer than you, that's fully within your bounds to like, yeah, you can fix that yourself. Like that's not something you have to take from someone else. You
try to be hard to be nice, but I'm just an asshole.
How do you steal someone's moral quality by murdering them for it? Like that seems a bit not really gonna work.
I'm gonna kill you to prove that I'm nicer. God damn it!
In theory, if a person's dead, they can't be nicer or less nice than you. They're just non-existent at that point.
That is kind of true. Yeah,
it's true.
It's real 4D chess you got going on there.
It's a strange one. The problem is as well, right? That role is going to rely on Gal Gadot really bringing it as like the vampish sort of evil mother-in-law. And I love Gal Gadot, I really do. She seems like a lovely person, and damn, she's beautiful, but she does not have that acting ability to bring a character like that.
Thank you. Every time I say this on my channel, like the brigade of comments that think that I'm saying it because I'm not as pretty as her, I know the bitch is beautiful. She's the prettiest thing I've ever seen, but she cannot act. It's not the same thing. Every time somebody casts her in anything, I think of the Kal-El No and that one line of her, and I don't even know what movie it was, that she was on a boat and like pouring champagne or some shit, and it was just, she's not a good actress. So when you look at somebody, I made the comparison in my video, like Angelina Jolie as Maleficent, I think those are not particularly spectacular movies, but I think that she was great in that role. In the first one especially, she was super intense. Gal Gadot cannot do that as the evil queen in this movie. I mean, she's playing against garbage, but also, like, come on, I'm sorry, it's not there.
No, she can. And I think what was the movie? It was like the one she was in with Ryan Reynolds and The Rock. Red Notice, Red Notice. Where she had to play that sort of femme fatale character, and she just didn't have it in her. And I think maybe Wonder Woman sort of fooled a lot of people into thinking that she could act and carry a film. And it's like, no, I think she was kind of just playing herself in that, like just a nice person
trying to do plenty of bad moments for acting in Wonder Woman. I think people liked the movie enough to ignore it. She had a lot more favor back then. She doesn't anymore. She's completely lost it. Most people agree she's a bad actress now.
Yeah, and so I think this movie's probably going to expose that, because she's going to have to play against type. She's going to have to play the villain, which she's never really done before, and I think that's not going to work for her.
I don't know if it was just for the trailer or if it's going to be for the whole movie, but it almost didn't sound like it was her voice. Or it was like
that didn't sound like her voice. No.
It didn't sound like her.
I'm wondering if they're gonna they realize that and they're just gonna completely voice her over, because that would be very interesting.
She's got, I don't know how to describe it. She's got a slightly crackly sort of voice in real life, which is fine. But it's like, if there's any kind of moments where she has to project a kind of gravitas, she's going to struggle to do it. And God help her if she has to sing. Like, that's
it's mostly because she's always trying to push against her Israeli accent. She's always trying to fight that accent, and they compensated for it in Wonder Woman by making everybody else use the same accent.
Pretty much.
That was so fucking funny. It's like, it's easier to make the entire cast speak like Israelis than make Gal Gadot speak like anyone else.
But now they can't do that. They have no reason to do that. So I would not be shocked if they're digitally trying to remove her accent, which would be extremely strange.
What if they dubbed her? They just straight up overdubbed her. That could be a thing. I don't know. I was curious as well. Like, this kind of made me laugh because they leaked some of the performance for "Whistle While You Work" onto social media, right? And so some helpful soul compared it to the original song. And so, yeah, I'm sure you guys are familiar with it. Like, in the original context of the song, like, Snow White gets taken in by the dwarves and she repays their kindness by cleaning up their home for them. You know, like, she uses her fucking animal friends somehow to help do it. And it's like it's a reciprocal thing. You know, they took her in, they gave her shelter and protected her, and so she wants to do something to help them out. In the new version, however, we have a different take on that, where she forces them to clean up their own home after they've been busy, like, working in the mines all day and literally saving her life. It's like, hey, I've got an extra fucking job for you. You're cleaning up your house now. So I'm just going to play it, actually. Just let it speak for itself.
Now you wash the dishes.
Now you wash the dishes.
You tidy up the room.
You tidy up the room.
You clean the fireplace.
You clean those cobwebs.
And I'll use the broom.
And he'll use the broom.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to put this into context. Like, imagine if you saved a person's life, right? Brought them back to your home, and it's like, okay, you can recuperate here until we figure out what to do. And then they just fucking throw a broom at you and say, like, right, start cleaning, bitch.
You call this a place to rescue someone? Clean this shit.
Yeah. It's obviously, like, it's a perfect distillation of redoing a story for modern audiences. And it's purely driven by this idea of, like, you can't possibly show a woman doing any sort of domestic chores. Like, that's not allowed. That would be
desperate
wrong.
To have someone in that fucking board meeting when they say minorities, just go, but why maybe we just don't. Maybe we just do it for old people. Let's try that for once. Let's try it.
Or maybe
they're like,
or maybe we recognize in this context she's just trying to do them a favor because they helped her. She's helping them. It's okay. It doesn't mean like all women everywhere have to just fucking confine themselves to a house and be constantly cleaning things. It just means this one character is doing this thing in this story, and it's okay.
But like, it's been ages since I've seen the original, but isn't that supposed to be the moral of the story, which is that the queen is ultimately vain and she is obsessed with beauty, but actually the thing that takes Snow White far in life is that she doesn't regard beauty, but she is kind. She does things for other people. That's what makes her a worthy character. How have we swapped being kind is more important than being beautiful for it's fine if the slaves are happy? Like, that's not... That's not a good replacement.
No, but because now their interpretation of being just and fair is being a leader, because that's what they talk like. That's what Rachel Zegler talked about in the original interviews constantly. How she's powerful, she's a leader, she's coming into her power, she's got authority over people, and that's what she does here. She tells the dwarves what to do. she organizes them to like do their own tasks essentially. So she delegates work to them. That's what makes her a good person, apparently, ordering people around.
But that's what I think is so outrageous about this shit. Because look, I mean, speaking as the one on the panel that has lady parts, even though apparently that wouldn't qualify me as a woman in today's year, but
you can still get knocked out by a man in the Olympics if you want to go in for boxing.
Apparently, right? But honestly, looking at these things, okay, I wasn't really like a big Disney princess kid growing up. I was like a SpongeBob person, so that should go show you why I am the way that I am. But my point is that the whole point of Snow White and these Disney princesses and the moral lessons, right? Because there are moral lessons in these stories. Sure, will we have to see a woman, a girl, cleaning, right? Oh my God, how dare you? But the whole fucking point is not the action of cleaning as something as offensive. It is a reciprocation of kindness. It is you scratched my back, you let me into your house. So you know what? Let me do you a favor. You guys were out mining. Let me help you out and do something nice for you. We're not going to put her in a hairnet and have a dwarf come and whip her. It's not some terrible thing that she's doing or being subjected to. It is something kind. And so, in my opinion, kindness does not outweigh leadership or independence. You can be both. You can be a strong, independent woman who maybe in a later sequence, I don't know, shows the dwarf how to clean his own fucking pot. But you know what? This one time, let me help you out. I'll do it for you. You know, and it's this thing where reciprocity no longer exists. The lesson for women and girls now is that you need to literally step on everybody around you, or you are not worthy as a woman. You are not comfortable in your own power. You know, there doesn't need to be any love in your life. There doesn't need to be reciprocity to somebody who might be a male. And it's insane to me. These are not the lessons we need to teach people, because that just creates narcissistic assholes who don't appreciate anything around them. These stories exist for a reason. And making them for modern audiences, if this is what you're doing, if the modern audience is we're going to have this chick shove a broom into somebody's hand after they've just helped her, then what you're telling me is that the modern audience is a narcissistic asshole who doesn't feel the need to scratch anybody's back or repay a favor. And it's insane, regardless of gender. It shouldn't be like that.
No, I agree. And I think there's something actually quite powerful about taking a character like Snow White, who is a princess, a person who's born into a position of immense privilege, who probably would never normally have to clean or cook or do anything really for herself. In the original story, to lower herself, I guess, to that level of sweeping up and cleaning a house, like a very basic place, and doing that manual work because she is a good person and she wants to reciprocate the kindness, like you say, that people have shown her. That is a very strong character trait of a person who doesn't have ego, and who doesn't see themselves as above a task like that. That is a person who's willing to pitch in and do day-to-day work, even though it's not what they're born into. Whereas, this new version just reinforces that idea of like, well, I am better than that sort of thing, and I don't need to do that. And you, poor person, you can do it for me because I'm going to give you the. Like that is a shit lesson to teach people. That doesn't ring true with the human condition whatsoever.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched Snow White semi-recently, actually, with Rags and Friggy. We were quite struck by how charming and, like, it's such a neat movie, especially considering how fucking old it is. So this thing that they're making, man, I don't want it. I don't want it.
You know what's something?
And to me, it's just irritating. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, it's going to slightly switch the topic, so go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just going to add that to me, it's inherently irritating and super hypocritical. I don't know how many of y'all have seen Rachel Zegler's Instagram and Twitter. I don't know if she's still with this person, but she's continuously posting about the love and support from a man that she is in a relationship with. And yet she so boldly says this person doesn't need to be saved by the prince. Her co-star could have his scenes cut at any time. And I'm like, that's really fucking gross. Because I'm sure if it was the other way around, everybody would throw a tantrum. You shouldn't say that about somebody who is a fellow artist with you. What the hell is your problem with this princess potentially having a romantic relationship? Don't you have one that you benefit from? Like, goddamn, it's insane.
I think that most of all, like when she made that comment, yeah, like you say about like, oh, his scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby. And it's like, don't you care? Like, that's a guy who's like, this is his big chance to make to make it into the big time. And like, potentially his scenes could all get cut and that's his career over. And you don't give a fuck and you're going to laugh about it.
But he wasn't wearing a dress.
Just as an actor, what a horrible thing to say.
He wasn't wearing a dress, Drinker, and that's the only time you get paid is when you're wearing a dress on set. So,
yeah. I mean, honestly, like we've covered this, like I guess before, but like those interviews did so much fucking damage to this movie. It's incredible.
I'm shocked. I don't know how they sidestepped this, but she had the pro-Palestine thing recently, and her co-star is a former member of the Israeli military. I don't know how that is a masterful class of how to sidestep quite possibly the biggest problem you could ever have with your film. I think I would love to do a case study on that because they somehow dodged the biggest bullet possible.
I mean, yeah, because I talked about this, I think, on the last like super chat catch up that I did. It was like, Rachel Zegler has been fairly like radio silent for months now. Like, I guess just keeping her head down, like hoping that all this controversy was going to pass them by. But now the trailer's out, she has to do interviews and stuff. And it was like she started off with a tweet about like, I'm so blown away by the support that this trailer's got, like millions of views. Like, okay, we won't talk about the like to dislike ratio, but like loads of people watched it, so that's great. I'm so happy. And then the immediate follow-up with tweet was like literally P.S. Free Palestine. Like, you just had one job. Don't talk about politics. Don't talk about anything controversial. Just plug the movie. That's it, Rachel. All you got to do. Easy.
Well, her people are going to defend her regardless. I had people commenting on my last video. I've never said anything about her as a person. I don't know her, so I can't speak as to whether or not she could or could not be an asshole. But what I do is if I find an interview where you say, I was terrified of this ride, but then a month later, it's your favorite thing in the world and you're always in line for it. And I find hypocrisies in what you're saying. I'll just show that in my video. Look, she said this. And I had all these people coming at me and going like, oh, you're so bitter. Why are you bullying her? I'm literally just showing you what she said. If that is bullying, that sounds like a her problem. Maybe we should all watch our fucking mouths because it's not the same thing.
Well, it is the counterpoint, isn't it, as well, to the idea that the original press tour, which was so disastrous for her, was that she was given terrible lines to speak by the studio. It does sound like she is the kind of person who just enjoys running her mouth about things she doesn't know anything about. So I suspect she's just a bit of a loose cannon with predictable opinions and that sort of air of entitlement, that sort of that toxic combination that makes these people so unbearably horrible to look at.
I think when this all blew up initially, I think I was willing to write it off as just a young, impressionable actress who suddenly hit the big time, getting loads of attention and loads of people probably massaging her ego, left, right, and center. And so it all just goes to her head a little bit. And she starts running her mouth when she does these red carpet interviews. And that's why you got like these really like abrasive, kind of cocky, like performances, for lack of a better word, where it's like she's not going to be saved by the prince, and like all Andrew's scenes might get cut, my co-star, who knows, like just it all just like went to her head a little bit. Like I could get that. And then what you saw a few months later when she did that interview with Halle Bailey, where it was like the two sort of Disney princesses sitting down to talk about their respective movies together, and like you could tell 100% she had a talking to by like Disney executives, by her PR people. It's like, okay, this attitude that you're giving out, it's like fucking killing us. Like, you have to be nice. You have to be demure, feminine, quiet, reserved, thoughtful, whatever. And she was a model of just quiet, introspective reverence for the movie. And it was, her entire attitude had changed. It was like on the red carpet, like for these previous interviews, it was like, the original movie was a joke. It was horrible. It treated women like shit. We're not going to be doing any of that stuff. Then a few months down the line, she's like, the original movie was so beautiful. It was just like this incredible film. timeless themes. It made Disney what it is today, and I wouldn't even be here without that beautiful film. It's like, okay, you've been told what to say, clearly. Like,
but the studio itself doesn't believe that. I mean, the studio itself shares the same attitude of sort of shame to the thing that made it. This is one of the reasons you don't have 7 dwarves in the movie. You have 7 animated monstrosities in the movie and 7 unemployed and homeless dwarves out on the streets of San Francisco. Like, it's like these are the people. I think, isn't there still like a huge statue of the 7 dwarfs holding up like some massive structure at Disney because they used to understand that these were the characters who built them as a company, and now they have to run away from it. So they might have told Ziegler to tone down her more abrasive presentation, but ultimately she's still part of the same cradle to grave acting class as most of these people are. Like they genuinely do feel a sense of shame about what they came up with. They genuinely do think they're doing something better. It's just there comes a point when money does talk, and so maybe just dial it down for a little bit. We agree behind the scenes, of course, but just maybe keep it on the down low for as long as you can. Then you can say whatever you want. Once the film is out, once we no longer care, by all means go tweeting to your heart's content. But it's not like a sincere reflection by the studio that what she said was wrong. It was just that it did them damage.
Yeah, 100%. I think what you got originally was like her true feelings on the original movie. Like that was her unfiltered, like, I'm going to be super honest because I'm right in top of the world right now and nobody's disagreeing with me and everyone's just like telling me I'm amazing about everything. Then after that, when you get the pushback, it's like, oh, I need to pretend like I actually like the original and I really care about it and all that. That's all it is. And yeah, like I think when a person is on top, when they're unopposed and when they're getting told that they're amazing by everyone, that's when you see who they really are, because there's no reason for them not to be. And that's what we got from Rachel Zegler back then. What we're getting since then is the edited version to appeal to what they think people want, I suppose. And it's probably like that with everyone in Hollywood to a degree.
What happened to the wasn't the Daily Wire doing like a Snow White alternative? Like, what happened to that?
Are they releasing that at the same time? Is that their goal?
It would be
I
funny
honestly
if they did.
don't know. I hope they do.
I hope
be
they
funny.
are.
It's gonna be like a fucking Asylum movie in comparison, I'm sure. Like,
Whatever, more competition. Let's go.
I mean, it still has a better chance of turning a profit because the budget for this one's out of insane.
Yeah, I mean, the budget for that will be tiny, and like probably if they had the balls to release it day and date, like on par with the Disney movie, it would probably become a movement for a lot of people. Even if it's shit, who cares? It's like
a thing to do, isn't it? Check them both out.
Yeah, it's like, but it would be like try and make this the more successful film than the Disney one. Like,
probably not going to happen. Well,
no,
maybe overall it might, as in if Snow White crashes and burns, that's not impossible.
Well, I wonder where the box office would sit with this, because the weird thing about these fucking live action remakes is that they tend to actually be crazy successful.
Because people still take their kids to watch them. We can sit here and bitch about this all day, and I think we have justification. But at the end of the day, people that have been showing their kids Snow White on Disney Plus for years are going to go, oh, look, a new one. Shut up for 2 hours. Let's go to the movies. And they're going to go watch it and pay for it.
No, you're right. It's become a generational thing. So the people who watched it as kids, or maybe not Snow White, but like things like The Lion King, for example, like all these movies that came out in the late 80s, early 90s, the little kids who watched them back then are now parents now, and they take their kids to watch the new one, and they get like the nostalgia kick of watching the same story retold, and also the kids get to shut up for 2 hours and just and so that's the draw of it, I suppose.
There has been a steady decline in the profitability of the live action remakes, though. They have, discounting unspecified buyers of unknown origin, but there has even dating back before that, they were becoming less and less appealing. And I have I was on a different channel the other day and we were talking about this, and I wouldn't be shocked if this makes like 400 million and is a huge flop, because I think the litmus test will end up being the Mufasa movie, which comes out later, it comes out earlier than it, and we'll see that because not only did you say like it's a big brand, but this is also this is their oldest IP. So, there's a little less of that nostalgia for it than The Lion King, which everything you just said is absolutely true. The parents of the current generation are the ones that are going to be taking their kids to it.
And I think the Little Mermaid event, like the 2023 one, eventually, it was a slow burn, but climbed to, I want to say it's just under 600 million worldwide in terms of box office performance, which doesn't stack up against something like The Lion King, but it's not an inconsiderable amount of money. I think it at least made its budget back. But it's not like blowing anybody out of the water, which is kind of a pun because it's the Little Mermaid. So like, I don't know exactly how popular even like a Snow White movie would be. It's older. It doesn't have that generational appeal because people weren't kids when they first saw Snow White, where they were with something like Little Mermaid. It didn't have anything like the same negative publicity around it, and yet it still didn't sort of do the billion. It wasn't a massively successful film.
I don't think it has the same. It certainly doesn't have the same level of controversy surrounding it because, as much as like people bitched and moaned about Halle Bailey being miscast as Ariel, she was smart enough to just keep her head down and just get on with the movie, and so there wasn't really much to latch onto in terms of backlash for that film. It's like okay, there was a minor like okay, this doesn't seem like Ariel and stuff. It's a bit weird casting, but that was okay. There wasn't much there. This is like next level. Like the amount of antagonism towards this film, I've never seen anything quite like it. I mean, shit, man. Like I made a video about this today, right? It's been out for a few hours. It's almost at 1 million views already. Like that shows the depth of feeling towards this movie, and it's not good feeling. Put it that way.
Can you even
I think it's exactly that, though.
Which was
sorry.
That's the video you were referencing. Awkwafina's singing, right?
Yeah,
and that's just an example of the controversy that happened for Little Mermaid, which is pretty bad. But you're right, probably dwarfed by the Snow White one. But how does that reflect in the public? It's hard to say.
Yeah, because I mean, like, there's people like us, obviously, who kind of stay in touch with like what's going on production wise and stuff. Like, do normies know about all this? I don't know, but
then on the other hand, will normies look at the trailer and see those, whatever they're calling them, little people, and think, yeah, that's definitely going to be a good quality film. That's not at all like a horrific artistic decision that you've made creating these CGI monstrosities. Like it looks so tacky. Even aside from all the drama, all the controversy around it, even aside from Rachel Ziegler, you look at it and you think, this looks pretty bad. And I think that will be the thing that really impacts most people when they come to decide whether they're seeing it.
Yeah. No, I think so. I kind of hope that they don't really, because it doesn't feel like a movie that deserves to succeed. And so, yeah, I'd be quite happy for it to be a massive flop. Like it could be another The Marvels, for all we know.
That'd be very funny. That was a very funny time. Yeah, it's all the excuses. It's a generational divide. Yeah, okay. Like it made 300 million like a year after Doctor Strange 2. That's not a thing. I'm kind of also depressed that these so-called live action remakes that we've got, which aren't like, they're not really live action remakes, are they? I mean, you've got a live action character and then you have like the entire thing is created by CGI. Yeah. I would have been way more interested in this film if it had gone back to doing that mix of old-fashioned animated mixed with live action, say like Roger Rabbit or Looney Tunes or something like that, which I don't remember the last time we had one of those, when it was the good old-fashioned Disney that everybody loved and was uncontroversial mixed with the live action star, which it's got a very distinctive kind of look to it, which I prefer to this sort of CG live action mix.
There was a time where they actually tried to do live action versions of the classic films. We can call it the late 90s, early 2000s. Think of Dalmatians, for example. Got turned into an actual live action film with the dogs that they're trying to fuck with.
Well,
and stuff.
They've done live action ones of various. Like they did a live action Cinderella, which by all accounts was pretty successful, and people seem to like it. And
when you look at Lion King's the best example, where it's just like, what in that is even live action at this point? Is it all in a computer? So there's the controversy, but it's still referred to that way.
I mean, with this one, yeah, that's a prime candidate for like, if you've literally got like a CGI backdrop, if you've got CGI dwarves and everything, and the only thing that's actually real is Rachel Zegler just prancing around on set. Why not just make the whole thing just CGI? It would have been easier.
CGI her out of it.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, you could make an actual attractive Snow White, and then everyone would be happy, I suppose.
I think the main question here is how much live action is required to call your film live action. I think that is really the question that is being asked here.
Yeah. It's the Lion King
Rabbit live action, the ultimate.
Yeah, like, you know, when it falls down for me is when they have to use animals for it, like the Lion King being a prime example, where like if you watch the original animated movie, like the animals, the main characters, they're so expressive because they've anthropomorphized them, obviously. You know,
and they have eyebrows. That's the whole thing.
They
real
take
ones
on
are
human
missing eyebrows.
They take on human expressions in a way that real animals clearly can't do. But like when they try to do the CGI versions of this, they're trying to marry the expressiveness of actual human character actors with how animals' faces actually function, and it doesn't work. And so you end up with just this horrible middle ground where it feels so uncanny. I mean, like, I know it made a shit ton of money. Like the Lion King made like over $1 billion, so I can't knock it for its success. But as an actual artistic endeavor, it's horrifying.
The worst one in terms of the diminishment of artistic range, I think, was the Little Mermaid, the 2023 one, because they took Flounder, obviously, with very expressive animated fish, and just turned it into a fish. And like fish don't really have faces, actually, never mind facial expressions. And it's like you've like taken a character and then you've swapped the character, and now it's just literally a fish. What am I going to get out of that? The voice acting did its best, but you know, it's not going to look great.
Let's not even talk about Scuttlebutt. I mean,
oh no.
Well, I think it was Reaper who like summed it up best. It's like Aquafina seems like a person who's been told lies her entire life. Lies like you're really funny or you can sing or like just stuff like that. Like, no, you should have been honest with Aquafina. Like, you can't do either of those things. Like, please stop.
Like, she has the inability to sense sarcasm. It's like her entire life.
Man, you're so fucking funny, Aquafina. Like, thanks.
Every time she hears something, it's like she's reading text. She can't quite decipher it.
Yeah, I've never seen someone so young who sounded so old. It's a weird thing. I just wanted to read out a couple of super chats while we're going here. This one is from J-Mac, who says, as a parent who grew up in the 80s and 90s, I can proudly say that I have never shown my kids current day remakes and sequels, just the classics. In fact, we recently rewatched the Indiana Jones movies with them. That's right, the trilogy of Indiana Jones. The Temple of Doom was my 7-year-old's favorite. Man, that's hardcore. What, like watching Temple of Doom with a 7-year-old?
I was watching it by then.
I'm sure you were, MauLer, and that explains why you are the way you are.
Be. Be watching Indiana Jones the second you're born.
I remember, like, that's one of my youngest memories, actually, watching Raiders of the Lost Ark. You know, when everyone's faces melt at the end, that scared the shit out of me as a little kid. But, yeah. But no, I think that person's on the right track. Just show your kids the classics. Give them a good grounding in actual good movies, and then move them on to the shit that we have today, and they can see the drop off. Just make sure they watch Lord of the Rings as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
But hey, we've got Rings of Power coming, so that's I'm sure that'll be interesting.
Woo.
Yay. Would you guys be okay to do a few super chats while we're going here?
Yeah.
Say no, be different.
The best part. It's the best part.
No, then, no.
It's like, all these people that paid us money, it's like, fuck off. Fine, we're not going to answer any of your questions. We're just going to leave. No, we will answer them all. Don't you worry. So I'll start off here. THX says, No Country for Old Men was an absolutely killer movie. One of the better movies of the decade. I mean, tough to argue with that one. It really was
controversial to this day for its ending.
Yeah, but I like it.
I adore it. It's fucking brilliant.
Social Morlock says, did you hear how Disney wants a wrongful death lawsuit thrown out because of the fine print in the Disney Plus trial the plaintiff had years earlier? They really are the company that just keeps on giving. Yeah, they are. They do a lot of scummy things like that. there was I'm sure like from a year or two ago, there was some parents of a little kid who died young, terminal illness or whatever, and he wanted Spider-Man on his gravestone, like a sculpture of him or whatever, and Disney sued them to have it removed because it was copyright infringement. And I just thought, you motherfuckers, like this would have been the easiest win ever to have just said, you know what, it's a little kid, fine. We don't.
They could have even went to the next level and been like, "We'll pay for it." Even like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Good PR.
See, that's the kind of thing. Like, how does that never get come up in a Kathleen Kennedy interview? Just ask her point blank, "Why would you do this? Like, why would you do this?" And she's like, "Well, I mean, it's Disney. They just see if she throws someone under the bus or not." It's funny.
Yeah,
it's Hollywood, baby.
Yeah, yeah, it really is.
What is the reasons that no, we have to protect the integrity of our IP from the dead children? Like, there's no
dead children are coming.
They're gonna somehow take over that IP. Like, Jesus. Oh, the stream went dark for a minute there. Anyway, Normal Man says, "What are your guys' thoughts on the Simpsons movie?" So. I'll let you guys answer as well, but I'll just say for myself, that movie came along at an interesting time, i.e. the point where I just didn't give a fuck about The Simpsons anymore. But I watched the movie and it was fine. It was just like a moderately good, really extended episode. That's the best I can say about it.
I mean, I usually pick it as a roundabout where I lost interest in The Simpsons, not because the movie was particularly bad, but I just don't remember caring as much after that point. But I mean, from what I remember, the film is pretty okay. It's not as good as the best of Simpsons, but it's not a disaster to watch. Plenty of funny shit in there.
Yeah, I don't think I was allowed to watch that movie when it came out.
I was never much of a Simpsons person. So.
This is where I'm like surrounded by people who are a lot younger, and they're like, "Oh, I was too young to have watched it at the time." Like, fuck off.
It's like my favorite comedy show of all
Sorry,
time.
drinker.
So. God damn it.
I will say this. I do like the line, "I was elected to lead, not to read." I do like that line a lot. So, and that was from that.
I like when he pours his and the pig's poop into the swamp to dump the waste, and then the skull appears and says, "Evil." His poop became sentient.
Drake Timbershaft says, "Madonna, Borderlands, Hollywood's fucked up on IP brand." Yeah, very true. Master of Puppets says, "Hello, I've been rewatching Happy Hours and I really enjoyed listening to you and MauLer gushing about Terminator 1 and 2 for close to 4 hours." Yeah, we did.
Man, that was the olden days now.
I know, yeah. That wasn't nearly enough time actually to cover both movies, but yeah, we did our best. Also, have you seen Pan's Labyrinth? Yes, I have seen it a long time ago, but yeah, it was a crazy bit of 1980s fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming we're not all encouraged by the news that James Cameron is.
The Pan's like
sorry, not 1980s.
I was about to say, wait, the fuck, that came out in the 80s? Jesus Christ, how old am I?
No, what am I thinking of? I'm thinking of Labyrinth. Yeah.
Labyrinth, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Platoon, what were you about to say?
I was going to say, I'm assuming we're not looking forward to the news that James Cameron is penning another Terminator film. There's no way that
James Cameron worked on Dark Fate, so yeah, I've got fuck all confidence in him. Just stop making Terminator movies. Just stop.
Nobody asked.
Yeah, you were lucky. You were genuinely lucky that you got away with Terminator 2, okay? Because it was just a rehash of the first one. It was fucking incredible, and you did it really well. That's great. The Terminator franchise, the concept does not support movie after movie after movie because it's just the same fucking thing over and over again. Stop, please.
Gotta go
it
super
was not
meta.
The same thing. They had a brand new bad guy set called Legion. They had a bunch of machines. There was a girl who was the key to everything. It was different.
We had a 4'2" girl who says, "Fuck fate, I'm tough girl."
It's got to just go super meta with it.
I weigh less than the gun that I'm holding in my hands right now.
Send a Terminator back to stop him from making everything else.
I'm just going to get more drunk and belligerent as we go through these, by the way. I just want you to know that. Scott's Kid says, "Rule Britannia, Britannia rule the waves. Britons never will be slaves. Live up to the song, Brits, you can do it." I don't think we can anymore. But anyway, that's as far as I'll go into that. Grant says, people forget that Disney began live-action remakes in the 90s. What do you think of the best and worst live-action Disney remakes? So, best and worst.
I have to pull them all up and just look at like the list.
Yeah.
Jeez,
like I say, I seem to recall Cinderella being quite good, and it was before the whole modern era of remakes of things. So I think that was probably quite a good one.
Well, I think they're aiming for way earlier than that, right? That was part of the new era. Did they say 90s?
Yeah, I mean, they had 101 Dalmatians and that sort of thing, but...
And 102, don't forget.
Yeah. It was Glenn Close that was in that, wasn't it? She was
kind of hilarious in it.
See, that was before they tried to. That's before they tried to revamp Cruella de Vil, a woman who literally wants to fucking skin puppies and turn them into coats as a good person.
Maybe you would want to do that if your parents were killed by Dalmatians. How about that?
That was so atrocious, though. Like, of all the things to like remake for a modern audience, we're gonna make a high fashion couture villain out of a woman who just wanted to skin dogs. That is the nastiest thing you could do. If that isn't telling of where Disney's at.
That is the Mount Everest of hard sells.
When it was like rumored that the origin story was Dalmatians killed her mom, and then it was like leaked, and you saw trailers that matched imagery, and then finally see the film and see the scene itself. That whole process, I couldn't believe it at any step. It was amazing. Can't believe they actually did that.
I forget what it was. There was something. It might have been Kingdom Hearts, where all the villains were being looked at in a sympathetic light, and then she shows up, and they're just all like, "No, you really suck. You're the all of us." So it's like,
I would legit love to see Disney take a male villain and give him a sympathetic backstory. They'll never fucking do it.
When are they going to try and humanize Gaston, who's basically his whole thing is sexual harassment the whole time? Let's see you try and fix him.
They will never do it. I will bet my life savings that they won't. Simon Ho says, we think Snow White asked the magic mirror who's the fairest of the land. Oh, who are we kidding? Gal Gadot. Duh, jealousy and now anti-Semitism. Cringe. Well, there you go.
Dude, as the mirror said it was, it's like, you're the hottest. Like Gal Gadot just sits down. She's like, well, and the credits roll.
It's like, won that one then.
Yeah.
God. Snex says, the Borderlands movie is the equivalent of the Bane gun from Borderlands 2. If you don't get it, look up the audio. All noise and no substance. Cheers, Open Bar. Well, thank you very much.
Bane gun. All right.
Yeah. Barbecue Doomboy says, hey, all turned 27 today. I wanted to say thanks for the great content. Drinker, have you finished Attack on Titan yet? Overall thoughts? No, so I'm on season 4 now. So final season. This is it. Yeah. Check me out, anime guy. Sorry, it's taken me a while to get through it, but first 3 seasons were fucking brilliant. Loved it, and looking forward to season 4. So people apparently are quite interested to hear my thoughts on how it gets resolved. But season 3 set up some good stuff, so I'm looking forward to it. Turbo Topology says, Platoon, I would wait an eternity for you.
Aww.
Wouldn't we all?
Also, I will be right back.
Well, I won't wait an eternity for you, apparently.
No. I'll be listening. Anybody says anything mean about me, I'll make a video.
There we go. James Moore says, difference between Aliens vs. Predator and Aliens vs. Predator 2 is that the director for 1 loved Alien and the director for 2 loved Predator. That's why one Xeno killed 2 Predators in AVP and why the Xeno act like dumb dogs in 2. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they're both dog shit anyway. So.
They are pretty bad. My impression was always that they did that sort of deliberately. Like the first film was the Aliens film in terms of, setting, backdrop, the kind of, tight corridors and all the rest of that, all the darkness. And the second one was supposed to play up to like the Predators. Like, there's the jungle bits, there's the city, which obviously like Terminator 2, Predator 2. And so they were doing it sort of deliberately to try and give each of them like an opportunity to excel in their natural habitat. But neither of the films particularly excelled, so it didn't matter.
I feel like Aliens probably has had a better run at it than Predator. Like, I feel like we only ever got one really good Predator movie, and the second one was pretty good. Like, I've got such a soft spot for it, but That was it. And I feel like the concept is amazing, and you could take the Predator into so many different eras, so many different places, so many different settings, and there's a lot you can do with it. And somehow they've just never made the most of it, and that's such a shame because I love the idea of the Predator.
Yeah, it's the nice thing about Prey was that, the premise was a little bit different than the kind of thing we're used to seeing. It was a different time period. It was a different part of the planet. It was a different set of enemies that it had to take down. I think the film sort of fell off its legs at some point around the third act, but at least they were trying something which was relatively interesting with the character and the premise.
Yeah.
I think the problem is that the... go ahead.
No, I was going to say I have similar thoughts of that as I have towards Terminator Salvation, where it's like they finally tried something new and different. It's like it's not just a time travel story about the Terminators going back to the present day to kill someone. It's like, okay, we're going to do this in the future war. We're going to advance the series beyond what we had before. Okay, didn't work all that great, but it was something.
The idea was there. The idea,
the concept was different, so that's good at least.
I think Predator has always suffered from the fact that the first movie is essentially the perfect action film. And then it was just they couldn't recreate it no matter how hard they tried. It was they attempted to change the setting with the second one, same setting, different circumstances with Predators, and it was just they never were able to recreate the magic of the original. Partially because the original, the surprise factor of an alien, of how it was in an alien hunting Arnold was what made it so great.
Yeah. I would genuinely, if you asked me to distill down a perfect action movie, I would probably be Predator. Like there's nothing I would change about the screenplay for that movie. As far as I'm concerned, it's like they just nailed it perfectly. And it's not very often that you get that. It's nice, but the problem is you've set that high benchmark, and it's like you're never going to capture that lightning in a bottle again after that. Derek Lopez says, that's not Snow White, that's Lord Farquaad. It's the hair. It's the hair. It's partly like that 1930s hairstyle, I guess, that they had for the original, but it's tough to move past, I suppose. Zeddy Boy says, if we remove Disney's track record, can you guys think of any classic Disney movies that could actually benefit from a remake? That's a good question, actually. So any classic Disney films, animated, whatever, that would benefit from doing a modern day remake?
Not a one.
Okay.
I can't come up with a single one.
I feel like what they produced was probably better back then in terms of writing quality than what we get now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think, I guess Peter Pan's had a few live action adaptations. The 2003 one is significantly better than the most recent Disney Plus one. I mean, if we're ignoring their track record, which is so hard to do, I would like to see them try that again because it is an interesting story. And maybe get sort of a bit darker, sort of more toward the J.M. Barrie original version of that, and bring in a little bit more maturity to the tale as opposed to the sort of all singing and all dancing thing they tend to go in for. There's a few things like that where Disney has taken very sort of mature, still intended for children, but mature fairy tales. Little Mermaid is another really good example of this. And even in their original animated versions, they have very much infantilized them. And I would be really interested to see them trying to do a mature but also intended for children version of those, which is it holds closer to the fairy tales, which actually do have a more important lesson than you're beautiful and you should be allowed to marry the prince. I'd like to see them do something like that, but they never ever will.
Well, no, I love the original fairy tales, how they're essentially just horror movies and dressed up as kid stories. That's that's great. But a lot of people in chat are saying Song of the South. Yeah, good luck with that. I'll tell you, no, this is a good suggestion from Melvin, The Black Hole, because I legit was genuinely fascinated by that movie as a kid. And it's a really interesting film with a lot of interesting concepts. And when it gets to the end, it goes into some horror sort of dream vision sequence that very much was out of step with what Disney had produced up until that point. It was a real creative departure from what they'd done up until then. And I think maybe with modern sort of filming techniques, modern sensibilities, you could do something very interesting with The Black Hole. it would essentially become Event Horizon. But
literally, as you said that, someone in chat said it's the kids' version of Event Horizon.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
it was like the perfect timing when they said it.
Yeah, the villain goes to literal hell, so that's pretty good.
Did they ever do a live action version of Atlantis?
No.
They haven't, have they? See, again, that's another really nice, fun, interesting premise. Treasure Planet, same thing. There's a few of those which you could see working live action, but
yeah, I think in Atlantis, that's Helga Sinclair is like the femme fatale in that, isn't she?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, she was a good character. That'd be quite an interesting thing to work into modern day writing. But just before we go any further, I know Snarky, you've got to jump off now, so.
Sorry, but thank you so much for having me back on. I had a blast, and I feel like this therapy session to cope with Snow White and Kathleen Kennedy and all these other things has really helped. I feel unburdened.
It's okay. Open bar is just an excuse for me to get drunk on a Thursday night. So yeah, thank you.
I like the way you think.
Thank you for joining us tonight, and we'll look forward to seeing you again on Open Bar sometime soon. But appreciate it.
Appreciate y'all. Much love. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. All right, we'll do a couple more super chats, I guess, and I think we'll then finish up. So allow me to just find the next one. Matt PG says, Thursday, without a doubt, has become my new favorite day. It was great chatting with everybody before the live stream started, and I want to thank you, Drinker, MauLer, and everyone. Keep up the great work. Cheers from the garage. Nice. Thank you, man. Simon Ho says, no dwarf shall work on films. King of dwarves. That would probably be Peter Dinklage, I would say. David Gannon says, better than watching the Borderlands movie is playing Borderlands and being an active character in the story. Hashtag changed my mind. I can, because the games are way better. So yeah, I think you've got it there. Elkin Leon says, thanks for bringing Snarky Jay. Well, we aim to please. CR Cow says, hey, Drinker, I wanted to recommend a channel called Hard Cut, and if you like it, maybe toss them a shout out. They dress up like woke chicks for reviews. It's hilarious. Check out their Acolyte review. Okay, I will. Harrison Pudding says, if Claptrap can get diarrhea from bullets, can he get the clap from a USB insert? Well, technology has not proven us wrong on that one, so I don't know.
It was so annoying when he got riddled with bullets and didn't die. And I knew he wasn't going to die, but it was still annoying that he didn't die because, my God, he's annoying.
Yeah. DarkHour, I think the one point you mentioned in your review was when Lilith has an unskippable cutscene when she first arrives on Pandora. And she has to see the introduction video. It's okay, that's a reference to the games, so I can get that. They work that in there quite nicely.
Yeah, I like to be fair. If there's one or two things in a movie that I enjoy, even if the overall thing is dog shit, I'm gonna at least point out that was that was something that was useful that they did, and it kind of lulled me into a false sense of security there because I was like, oh, that was actually an interesting way to do that. But
Aruk Fire says, looking at the Brits in the panel, what do you think is the best version of Sherlock Holmes? I saw Robert Downey Jr., Sherlock, and Elementary. Cumberbatch is probably my favorite. There's an older version we should probably be watching that is better.
Jeremy Brett is the only right answer to that question.
I will take your recommendation on that one. Yeah.
I liked Cumberbatch as him, even when the writing went to shit on that. I like both the Robert Downey Jr. films, his portrayal. Not too picky. I think I've enjoyed Ian McKellen as Sherlock Holmes as well. Did you ever see the film with him where he's it's his last mystery sort of thing?
Ian McKellen played Sherlock Holmes. Was that filmed in the 1920s?
No, it's the point of it is supposed to be it's the last thing he does, the last crime he solves. It's something low stakes.
Oh, okay. No, I haven't. Yeah, I haven't seen that myself. Probaxi says, on the topic of Borderlands jokes, didn't they also age rather poorly? I don't think the Gen Alpha or Gen Z will appreciate the double rainbow, and is that in Borderlands 2? Probably not, no. It feels like the whole movie was filmed about 10 years ago. It's very very dated in its sensibilities. Normal Man says Kevin Hart is the Rock of comedians. Changed my mind. I can't. Nope, he's 100% safe, mainstream, predictable, solid choice, I suppose. So
has the same agent probably because they're always in movies together.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah. And Monkey Man 56 says Groundskeeper Willie had me believe you and MauLer are natural enemies, like Englishmen and Scots, or Welshmen and Scots, or Scots and other Scots. Yeah, essentially, Scottish people like to fight anyone, really. Mm-hmm. Yeah, whether it's like people within our own country, other countries, or just like if we're lacking options, just other people in Scotland.
Sometimes a mirror will do.
Yeah, it's fine. Like I've seen guys square up to a mirror in a nightclub, and it's impressive to watch. But it's what happens. But I'm probably going to finish it up there, gentlemen. Panel, lovely, esteemed guests. I want to say thank you for joining us tonight for Open Bar 107. Thank you, gentlemen. It's been lovely dissecting everything from Borderlands to Snow White with you.
Thank you for having us.
I wish I could say it was a pleasure to talk about these things, but it's always a pleasure to have you guys on at least, so that's something.
Movie future is in good hands.
And for everyone who's joined us tonight, thank you. I hope you've enjoyed our little open bar. It's nice to be back again doing it. And for any super chats that we've missed, MauLer and I will absolutely cover them on our super chat catch up. And we won't take like 3 weeks to actually do it this time. But for now, that is all we've got for today. So go away now.
Bye.